Center square being the Torn Diary page, which is going to be in Midra's Manse, actually.
I had no idea that even existed, I'm not going to lie, until just now. So hopefully, I mean, we're going to see both players here opening up Google most likely to see how to get this Torn Diary page. How do you actually get this? Like, what's the step-by-step?
It's, to my understanding, just a pickup, actually. But you have to get all the way to Midra's Manse to even pick up the Torn Diary page. It is, I believe, to my understanding, hidden in one of the areas in Midra's Manse itself. So it kind of promotes the whole section of Midra. And with that being,
like that a lot.
The 4 remembrance bosses are there too, so that kind of pushes you to maybe go for, Jory into Midra to do both at the same time.
I think this is a very cool center square because this is like what we needed. We needed more Manse stuff because there is really no reason to go there if there's no Midra on the board. And it being the center square here brings a massive kind of like weight. Like it's kind of like having Midra center square, of course, but you also have that frenzy NPC and that row 3 as well. So there is actually a reason to go down there this game, which is gonna maybe cause these players to have to adapt their routing because also, like you mentioned, the 4 members bosses in that top left corner. Most likely, whoever gets center square is gonna get that 1 remembrance with Midra. Do you have a personal prediction on who you think is going to go for it? You think they're both going to go for it? What's your general read on this matchup right now?
The board itself is kind of interesting because there are a lot of like different sections, especially dragons are kind of pushed here. You got Egon's Furled Finger, Dragon Hearts, and Senesax. So that's kind of a whole another region, right, to be pushed out, and dragon bosses on top of that. So overall, I think Ancient Dragonman's definitely going to be pushed out here a lot, especially with Use Transformation and Lamenter being on the board too, and Demi-Human Mariga. So South Coast here is like really, really important. However, 4 Remembrance bosses and Torn Diary and Frenzy NPC as already mentioned here, having Mesmer on the board, I think kind of promotes that because you have to have Shadowkeep access, right? So then going from first floor straight into Watering Hole to go and get these possible 3 squares back to back might not be a bad idea once you realize, like, hey, I have some Southern Region access. Let me get all the easy stuff maybe. Let me get Lamenter and Transformation double up. Let me get maybe Egon's Furled Finger and Demi-Human Swordsman and Demi-Human Mariga, some of the easier stuff in South Coast, and then go straight towards Shadowkeep and grab the other things and let, somebody else waste their time on dragon bosses.
For sure. Looks like we're getting started here. Countdown's down to 1, Fogwall is dropping, and we are off to the races, dude. The 3rd place match is underway. So I'd like to bring us attention towards the top right corner. We have Bulls and Castle Ensis, and then we also have on that same row, Golden Hippo and Backhand Boss. Excuse me. We're going to want to get one of these squares if you're Bushy or CBD. You definitely want one of these. And what we're probably going to see today is we're going to see these players maybe perhaps skipping that back section access that we see all the time in these matches. I think we're going to see a front Hippo today, just so, like you mentioned, we can get access towards that Jory. We can get access towards, killing Golden Hippo with backhand blades, perhaps. And then, like you said, we're going to head towards the coast, most likely. So it'll be interesting to see, because like I said in my post-game interview, CBD loves going back section. Like, that's, like, kind of his trademark thing, is he's kind of like a map player. Yeah. He likes getting the map over his opponent. And so I think this board is going to be interesting because you have the Hippo, you have the backhand blades, you have the Bulls and Ensis, and you also have the Mesmer on that corner, which is going to be like really interesting to see like how these players kind of build their bingos around that center square. Any predictions for any like spicy rows or columns so far?
I don't know. It seems kind of interesting, but I would kind of honestly say row 5. The reason why I say row 5 here is you have acquire 4 DLC sorceries, but also Commander Gaius' Pants, which means you could go for Blade of Stone sorcery, and on top of that, Ancient Dragon, Senesax, and Egon's Furled Finger, which are both on the same pathway. And if you grab the painting in Shadowkeep while going for Commander Gaius, you can get the Rockheart transformation. So if you just go straight for the sorceries here and Commander Gaius, and then just bulldoze straight to Jagged Peak and get the transformation of Rockheart, Ancient Dragon, Senesax, and Egon's Furled Finger, you can really run away with that line.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and now that I'm looking at the board, I think there is a little bit of incentive towards going back section. You do have that Commander Guys' Pants in a corner. You do have, where is it? There is a giant hand square somewhere. Yeah, column or row 2, column 3. We also have Heal the Wounded Kindred Rot, which is like very easy to access from back section. So, I mean, there is a little bit of incentive. I do think that we're going to see a Bull's Rush from CBD. That would be my my prediction. That is a square that he does like going for. It being in a corner makes it very incentivized, I guess you could say. Because like you mentioned, with that center square being so far out of the way, you want to be building your bingos around that for the most part, and then attacking it when at the right moment.
Yeah. I'm done. What kind of line are you wondering though? Sorry, did you just mention your line?
I mean, I just think that like row 1 is the best line in my opinion. Just like it's like the most straightforward line for the early game. Like obviously there is Revered Ash and the Remembrance bosses. So if you want to finish this row, you're most likely going to Dancing Lion as one of the Remembrance bosses, which will take away from your access towards not only the coast but also towards Shadowkeep, that like back section access, and also that access towards Midra for that Torn Diary page. So you could risk it all for that row 1. I just think that if it doesn't work out for you, it's going to massively blow up in your face.
Yeah.
And we see CBD here going for backhand blades, bleed infused on Bulls and Ensis. I was talking to him. I was talking to him the other day about this square, and he did seem to favor the backhands over the katana because leveling up the backhands is slightly faster than going all the way to the katana. Well, it is a bit riskier of a fight though.
Well, it's not the reason why I don't like it. It's not because of the backhand blades being used over the Great Katana, but because it's so early that this is really showcasing where you are on the map and that you haven't progressed into Fort Reprimand / Scudo Altus yet. This is kind of like showing that, sure, you maybe get a square, but and you're not, you're not getting any map progression. This is going to really tell Bushy, like, okay, I can really push these other long distance things and like show priority and hold priority for a little bit because CBD hasn't even gone there yet. And we see Dragon Pit here from Bushy going to go straight for what seems to be Ancient Dragon Man, the Savage Lion's Claw.
Yeah, I mean, I like this from Bushy. I think getting coast access as soon as possible is it's pretty high percentage play because there is that Demon Swordsman. There is also Mariga. And I've had this struggle all season pretty much of like when to kill ADM and like, if there's no ADM rush square, I've been struggling to find out when you kill ADM. So I actually don't hate this play from Bushy at all because I also don't hate this play from CBD either because he just pivots right off of Bulls and Ensis. Maybe he realizes what you're talking about. Maybe he realizes he's like telegraphing where he is on the board. So I think if you're CBD, I would like to see maybe a Concoction Square, maybe even just Skydo Altus progress. I don't hate this pivot at all from CBD because Bushy didn't go for it either. So maybe he can hold on to that for a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too upset about a concoction play, but it does look like he's also going for Ancient Dragon Man now, realizing that backhand blades Ancient Dragon Man might not be a bad idea. Gets them access to everything that we just talked about and gives him that square on row 1. Bushy now currently in that fight with what seems to be Frost Grease actually, and just keeping that normal affinity on the Great Katana because he maybe just didn't have the money for the
Oh no.
Oh, man.
That is a big sink because he spent 10,000 on the grease and now he doesn't have a grease anymore. And now he has a normal katana with no affinity infused on it.
Yeah. So this is interesting because like now CBD is there, but also for Bushy, he's kind of stuck here unless he wants to do the whole running section again afterwards.
I don't love the Savage Lion's Claw. Listen. Hot take, listen, I know. I am not a massive fan of that Savage Lion's Claw. I know it's done wonders for Bushy, but I do think that just R1s is the play on ADM.
Yeah.
Also, that mana is looking a little bit rough as well, the mana usage. I will say, once you get Skidoo online, and once you get, you could even throw on like a Shard of Alexander when you have like the money to afford it and whatnot, and this could deal out like massive DPS. But I have always been a fan of the R1s on EDM for the most part. That's kind of what CBD is going for here with those bleed backhands. I just think that like it's the safer option. Maybe if the grease play had worked out, it'd be a little bit faster. But yeah, I mean, Bushy also like he's aware of this because he did go for that. He went for the Opaline tier, it looks like, in his Physic Flask. So he is kind of playing into that a little bit. But the no armor just scares me. honestly.
I mean, both rocking no armor. Blue Dancer Charm here on CBD as well. So I don't think he's planning on wearing armor at any point in time. But here's also the thing that CBD having backhand blades with what seems to be Rotten Sword Insignia and Thorny Crack tier, he's going to be catching up here to Bushy really quickly.
Yeah, those bleed procs, they add up quickly on ADM for sure. And so what do you think the first square is past ADM? These are they interested in the squares right away, or are they kind of just killing ADM for money / map progression?
I think it's going to be just access, having that pivotal access, being like, okay, I now have Southern access. I get 120,000 for killing this guy. That gets me extra talismans. That gets me maybe an armor set for Bushy in this case. CBD I don't think is going for that armor set. But overall, just getting that money and that this boss out of the way, especially for CBD because he does get backhand blades only out of this as well. It's just a nice pickup. I'm expecting Concoction right after this from either player.
I think that's a fair assumption to make because there is that Hippo square as well that promotes that column 3 directly. So, I mean, honestly, if I was CBD, I also wouldn't hate a Hippo rush. But the problem with Hippo rush is that on low skidoo with backhand blades, that fight's really, really rough. So I actually like this play from CBD to get the backhand square, access on coast, and getting that that money online for like more talismans, wet blades, levels, etc. So Bushy, you're getting the cold wimp blade or cold wet blade as well, also some talismans. Kind of the same idea from both players, honestly. Just killing ADM for some money, for some access. I honestly didn't really think about it like that, but CBD marking that backhand square as well. Would you expect CBD to go for Bulls and Ensis right away, actually, over Concoction to promote that row 1 in the diagonal? Or do you think Concoction is a higher value?
I think Concoction is not of higher value in this case. I mean, it doesn't really. I mean, it promotes column 3. Don't get me wrong, but again, I'm eyeballing that row 5. I still think that row 5 is just it's really really nice because like what you can do here, especially with Ancient Dragonman being dead now, is just go straight to the Church District here, get that access to Commander Gaius, get that sorcery if you need to for the Bladestone sorcery, and after that you can get also the Hold Laden necklace while going to Church District, so you can access the Finger Runes, get those 3 other sorceries, and then what do you know? You use a transformation, Ancient Dragon, and then also Egon's Furled Finger, all left over in the same direction. So I mean, I really like that. I really like that row. You don't have to push it necessarily, but I just really like that angle. And I think Concoction doesn't really do super much. It's a free square, I guess. Especially if you're going to go do that row 5, you can break that rune on the way to going for Church District, and then talk to Moore and everything if you need to. But yeah, I don't know. Concoction is not a must, I would say, but it's a nice pickup.
CBD here marking that Bulls and Ensis square. Getting that corner square access is always super important in Bingham because not only does it promote a row and a column, it also promotes that bottom left, top right diagonal, while Bushy here set up Concoction. And if I'm Bushy, I honestly don't hate row 4 because how would Bushy know that CBD had killed ADM for his backhand boss, right? So if you're Bushy, you can maybe get a couple of squares in row 4. The only thing about that row is that everyone might say, oh, it's so easy. There's so many easy squares to get. You can, get a bingo so quickly. The problem with that is that easy bingo lines are the easiest to also block out. So that's why you see us threatening other lines that aren't as easy to block out, because it's just higher value to waste more of your opponent's time by giving them a square like Midra or a square like, one of those like long game squares like Meta or whatnot. So that's why we're probably not going to see Bushy rushing row 4 exactly, but I would like to see Concoction, maybe a Dragon Hearts to get yourself on that diagonal as well. And we expect CBD to maybe just go for Scadu Altis progress, like you're saying, get towards Gaius. That would be a solid play, I think, from CBD as he's adjusting himself on that Tiolier skip. This one is so hard, man. It's so finicky. I'm happy with the setup that I've created for this, but it's very jank, man.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Small little lip you got to lang on.
Yeah, Bushy grabbing here the Concoction square though, going to go ahead and fade away. We do have a little bit of a delay on Bushy's screen as we did previously. We didn't have one yesterday, weirdly enough, but today we have that again. A bit of like a 6-second delay or so. So that wasn't a pre-mark Just as a heads up for anybody else watching at home, being like, hey, he marked that too soon. It's like, not really. His footage is a little bit weirdly behind, and it's probably because he's streaming in 2K. But yeah, I'm expecting now. I don't know. I feel like row 4 is. I mean, I know you mentioned like row 4 is kind of rushable, and to a degree, I would agree. But also, killing 3 dragon bosses takes a little bit longer than I think some people realize. Like that is definitely a bit of a time sink, right? It's a bit of a, like, okay, well, is that really worth it? And having Ancient Dragon Senesax on there, you kind of probably want to get, a bang for your buck type situation and kind of double up on those types of things, especially going like Egon's Furled Finger. Maybe having Jagged Peak Drake as like your first dragon, and then Senesax as your second, and then go for your third. That way you could double up with Dragon Hearts and 3 dragons at the same time, because Senesax doesn't drop a Dragon Heart. That way you can kind of like lean into a bit of a harder push for that row 4. But I don't know. I'm not sold on the row 4 either.
I think just being on row 4 is a good thing, because it tells your opponent that, like, hey, like I like this, and if you want to come block it, that's fine with me. I'll get access somewhere else over you. And we see CBD preemptively killing the Jagged Peak Drake, maybe going for hearts, maybe like prepping dragon bosses. I do think this is a good play from CBD, because if he goes for hearts, he does promote his column 4 as well. And if he pushes Bushy into going for Senesax, that's a huge time sink if you don't have high Skadu or the Dragon Katana setup. So I think this is a good play from CBD. I do think, though, as a result, Bushy is going to get more progress on his Shadow Altus over him, and maybe even go for that row 1 Hippo to block out CBD's column 3 and also promote his own column 3. So I think that'd be a good play from both players. Blocking row 4 with hearts, blocking column 3 and row 1 with Hippo, and then even progress towards like Mesmer, Kindred Rot, 6 parries as well as right after Hippo. Is this a parry Mesmer game, do you think, or is Mesmer too rushable on the on that corner square?
I'm not sure. It could be a thing here. I'm not expecting both players to know how to parry Mesmer. I feel like parrying Mesmer is definitely still a bit of a niche knowledge that not everyone is comfortable with. So I'm kind of not super expecting that from this specific fight or this specific board per se, especially because like the way currently it's being played out, I'm expecting there to be a lot of other things picked out first before Mesmer parry comes onto the board and being like, okay, this is like my best option right now. CBD grabbing that first Dragon Heart, by the way, now going towards the Dragon Communion Altar, getting everything else prepped over there. Well, Bushy is in Skidoo Altus, going towards Hippo, it looks like. This is what I think is possibly, like you mentioned, column 3, I guess, for Bushy. He does get that concoction, so he's going for Golden Hippo next. And that could honestly, that's not bad, because Giant Hand, you would need Church District access, or you do the skip and Shadow Keep, whichever you prefer. But then also 4 sorceries, which is also again either of the finger runes most likely, because that's the best way you're gonna get access to some of the sorceries, is just buying from Emir.
Yeah, I mean, if I have a good read on the way that Bushy plays, I do think the Hippo is simply just a block. I don't know if he wants to push this column 3 all the way through and force CBD into Torn Page. That would obviously be a very, very good advantage to have over CBD, is to force him into a super long center square. But if I have a good read in Bushy, I think this is just a block. I think he does more row 4 stuff if CBD does not claim Dragon Hearts by the time that he finishes Hippo, which looks like he will go for that Mega Worm and finish off that Dragon Heart square. And now, if you're CBD, once you finish that Dragon Hearts, you also put yourself on column 5 with that Demi-Human Swordsman? Or do you maybe go for like Shadowkeep access for like Mesmer? You could go for like parries. You can go for Lamenter transformation, even though it's like really early on in the game. There's like a lot of synergy on the board, which I kind of like. And Bushy here going into the Hippo fight, having a bit of a time with the mouth hitbox literally being invisible because you're just inside of the boss's mouth.
Yeah. I don't know. Here's
yeah.
the thing that I could see CBD going for, and it being a powerful play, is after Dragon Hearts, going to go ahead and prepping Mesmer, because after Dragon Hearts, Bushy's already going to be like, well, Dragon Bosses is off the market. Why would I even try and commit to Dragon Bosses at all if CBD already has Dragon Hearts? That way he can go from Mesmer into Egon's Furled Finger, and next thing you know, it's only a Torn Diary Page and 4 Remembrance Bosses, which is 2 huge pressure points on that diagonal that he could really be like, okay, hey, like, what are you going to do? Either long distance or lots of fights. And I think that'd be a really strong play for CBD in this case.
I agree. I think if Bushy marks Golden Hippo, I think CBD just takes the long haul and goes back section. I don't know if there's really a reason to go like through the front side of Shadowkeep, unless he's afraid of Bushy pushing those squares that require access to Shadowkeep, like that Mesmer from first floor is faster than going through back section. Heal the Wounded Kindred. It's faster from first floor than it is from Morth Ruins, obviously. 6 parries as well. So he could get himself on that row 2. And he, like I said, now he knows. But CBD... Oh! He lives!
That's crazy.
That's insane. Uh-oh.
It's got... that is...
Oh my god.
I was going to say, that is so risky trying to heal there. Yeah, sadly dies the Golden Hippo there. And CBD does mark Dragon Hearts here. So now that column 4 showing a little bit of presence is nice. But I don't think there's anything... Like, a lot of those, besides healing the Wounded Kindred, not very pretty, you know. Velvet Trina, St Trina Sword, very huge time waste. Ancient Dragon, Senesax, also a huge time waste. Although they do have Dragon Hunter's Katana now. They could upgrade that, but both of them currently not a lot of money, as it's only, 18 minutes into the match.
Yeah, well, now Bushy kind of knows where CBD is and where he spent a lot of his time, because it is 18 minutes and he has Backhand Blade Square and Dragon Boss or Dragon Heart Square, so he knows pretty much that he has ADM down, which is like, very reasonable to assume. So now Bushy doesn't have to be scared of that row 2 as much anymore, because even though CBD can mark Velvet Trina Sword and Senesax, he just has access. And Bushy dies again! Oh my god, this is a disaster.
Yeah,
Dude, Golden Hippo, sometimes when you don't get that riposte, is just a disaster.
Yeah, having a bit of a Hippo incident here for Bushy. Nice skip here, though, from CBD, getting that Cerulean Coast skip. Yeah, I don't know. I had actually a Hippo incident versus Chris literally the other day when he wanted to practice for his semifinals match. And I was like, dude, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm not really doing anything wrong, per se. It's just sometimes just a bad luck of the draw when you have like Hippo facing the camera so heavily that you don't know what exactly he's doing.
Yeah, he also has these attacks where like he'll do a melee into like a dash backwards, and then you just like can't hit him, because if you try to hit him, then you'll get like chomped. So I don't know. Sometimes you just get really bad luck on Hippo, which is what we're seeing from Bushy. I would like to see him though stick on this, get the square. And then maybe at that point, you have to get yourself on other rows. I don't think you push Shadowkeep once you get this Hippo down, because you know that CBD is not here. So even though you are like sinking some time into the square, you are going to get the Hippo square. You are going to get the double block. You're also going to promote your column 3. You'll have access to that column 4 block. Nice stagger from Bushy. And then I want to see him do something like Moonrathil or something like Revered Ash or something like... I want him to promote another bingo threat while CBD is wasting his time. Not really wasting his time, sorry. He's setting up a Grace in the coast. CBD is likely going back section. That's what I meant. I meant while CBD is spending time going for back section access, I would really like to see Bushy building up a threat and kind of punishing CBD for spending so much time. And there it is. Bushy taking down the Golden Hippo. Very nice kill from Bushy. And there's a threat right there on the board, which is like kind of alarming if you're CBD. And that's why we're likely going to see a back section play, because CBD has to now go for hand or sorceries, or will be locked out of both those squares and have to go for Midra's Mance. So like that is the nightmarish scenario that you never want to see, is being pushed into a square all the way down there. That is like... You don't want to get pushed into that. That's almost as bad as the Elemental Warrior square.
Yeah, the question here is, though, what is Bushy looking at? Because he's actually not going for back section at all, but going for what seems to be Letta right now, Highland Cross. Maybe just grabbing some extra Skidoo fragments and then going towards maybe pushing the sorceries. Maybe grabbing Glintblade Trio from Castle Entrance could be a thing.
There is Moonrathil, so I think grabbing Glintblade Trio would be a good idea.
Yeah. So not really promoting anything here with Moonrathil. Also only being on, you know, a 2-line type of section on the board. But could still be worth it. Maybe this actually even is a Moonrathil race here. Nope. CBD going to go straight for Morth Ruins instead. I think, CBD going now Church District is the best call for him, while Bushy is going for the Moonrathil pickup here.
Bushy hitting the skip, which is really nice to see. I don't like that version of the skip that Aggie and Chris have been doing. I do it the other way where you land on the steeple.
Yeah.
But, Bushy is going to likely pick up the sorcery after killing Moonrathil. I am very scared for him, though, because he has no armor on, and this guy hits like a truck. This guy hits very, very hard, and he's level 23. So I don't know if I don't know how this is gonna go. I really hope it goes well for Bushy, because that could spell a disaster for him.
Who knows? Maybe Savage Lion's Claw is the thing that he needs for Moonrathil, but I could totally see hyper armoring through that and just not having to be able to deal with any of the damage. Oh, but the Glint Blades. Okay, that's not bad, actually, yeah.
All he's got to do is get the heal out, and then once he gets the heal out, he can go ahead and he can do his... Oh my god.
That trade is terrifying, though.
Yeah. So he's going to heal it out, and there we go. There goes his flask, which is really nice, because now Bushy can focus on just taking it slow, being patient with these Savage Lion's Claws. Hopefully not take another trade.
Yeah, there we go.
Bleed proc.
Oh,
and boom.
There it is. Okay. Not bad, not bad. There it is.
That was good.
Trail. Yeah.
I would like to see the Glintblade Trio now. Please don't pivot off. Get the...
No. He's like,
he doesn't want it.
I'm done here.
To be fair, if you don't know that little skip that I learned from ADEF, where you jump from the platform onto the other platform, it is a bit of a time sink. But looks like Bushier is going to be going for something down in the coast. I would like to see, I mean, maybe a rolling ram to get in the diagonal. Promote that column 2 as well. And I mean, if you're Bushy, like, you can kind of assume that CBD is going through the Church District now. I feel like there's not really another play on the board for CBD. Like, if he shows Demi-Human Swordsman, if he shows Mariga, if he shows Lamenter Transformation, like, that just tells Bushy he has more time to promote other threats, right? So I think if you're Bushy, you're safe to assume that this is just, like, your time to set up other squares. So I think this is really smart from him, setting up that Egon's Finger square, and then maybe going to pivot out to set up that Dragon Katana as well. Maybe we'll see a Egon fight. Maybe we'll see, you know, like a Lamenter or a America or a Swordsman, because I don't think CBD really knows at all what Bushy's been doing besides the squares that he's marked in the board. Because Bushy didn't get the backhand square. He was using the Great Katana. So CBD generally has no idea, besides that Bushy has front Shadowkeep access and has Skydew Altus. Like, that's literally all that CBD knows. He has no idea that he's in the coast right now.
This is interesting, actually, that Bushy's calling the bluff on Dragons, going for Egon's Furled Finger here. Going for the Jagged Peak Drake. Being like, okay, you got 2 Dragon Hearts, but you didn't kill Egon's Jagged Peak, so I'm going to call it. I think you're holding priority. And it's a great call, because that's exactly what's happening. CBD not finishing Dragonheart bosses. I mean, sorry, not Dragon bosses, or Egon's Furled Finger, for that matter. So this is a huge block, actually, from Bushy. Going to be blocking out that diagonal that I was talking about that could be really, really powerful. Or that column 5, you know, just really taking away a lot of power here from CBD.
For sure. I mean, I like this for multiple different reasons, because what we've seen from players, the Dragonheart square is pretty much always Jagged Peak Drake plus Magma Worm. I've seen maybe one other time Tom has done Egon's Drake with Jagged Peak Drake to double up on dragon bosses, but generally we see the Dragonhearts being kind of like a bluff with the Magma Worm as one of the dragons, and I like this a lot. I think this is very, very heads up from Bushy. CBD also heading towards Egon's Finger as well as we speak. But CBD having the backhand blades, which is, like, generally, like, worse in a lot of ways for this fight. So if anything, I'd love to see CBD setting up a Dragon Katana, because he's going to kill 2 more dragon bosses. So that would be most likely this Egon Drake that Bushy is now fighting, and the Ghost Flame Dragon in Gravesite Plain. Not bad damage from Bushy. I was expecting a bit worse, since he doesn't have the Dragon Katana upgraded. And oh my lord,
I'm surprised he even survived that, to be honest. I thought he was dead.
I thought he was gonna fall off the horse and get like counter hit.
Yeah.
As he was falling to the ground. That was very scary.
That was absurd.
Bushy not even looking at the dragon, dude. That is, yeah.
Missing
Ever
a lot
since
of R1s.
Ever since I've went down a couple of times in practice matches to this fight, I have always played it super carefully because this fight is one of the most incident prone fights in the entire DLC.
I feel like, I'm not gonna lie, and call me crazy here, but CBD might actually catch up here with backhand blades with bleed, as if he does get one stagger, he could get a huge boost in DPS, and like get a lot of bleed procs, but also just overall, the bleed buildup on the backhand blades is just so much better.
Yeah, I think maybe if CBD, it looks like he's pivoting. He's pivoting to Church of Manus Metal. He's trying to get the whole Laden necklace, I believe, for that sorcery square. I believe that's going to be his block, because that also puts him on row 5, like you're mentioning. If he gets himself on row 5 with sorceries plus pants, I think that's really good blocking column 3. It's also promoting your row 5, even though Bushy is probably going to get himself on row 5 in a minute here. He just doesn't really know. But this is good damage from Bushy, honestly. This is better than I expected with just the regular Red Katana. I thought the Dragon Katana was much better, but pretty good damage.
Yeah,
pretty good damage.
Really not bad here. Has to be careful, though. There are some attacks coming out.
No way.
Gets knocked off his horse here. Gets punched in the head. Fire attack here coming out now.
That was almost my first caster curse of the season, dude.
Is weirdly enough, so I'm not gonna lie, if this was me, I would have been dead. That's how lucky I feel with this fight. So I'm shocked at the good RNG of not dying for Bushy here. Does get the kill on Jagged Peak. Very nice.
He gets the kill. So he's gonna get himself on that row 5 and block out column 5 and the diagonal. That's a really big block. That's a massive block and a massive swing of momentum for Bushy. As CBD is going for Mariga, skipping the swordsman actually and going right for Mariga. Interesting strategy. I do think that claiming the swordsman kind of goes with the square, with the Mariga square. That's kind of where the value comes from. It's kind of like intrinsic value. It looks like Bushy is going to. Oh, he's pivoting. Okay, I was gonna see if he was maybe getting the grace before the painting for transformation. Maybe
that's what I was hoping for.
But he is just pivoting. He does have the Egon Grace, so he doesn't have to like make up that much ground. It's not like desperate for him to like go there now because he does that Egon Grace. CBD here in the Mariga fight. We'll see how this goes.
Careful.
Has to be a bit careful because Mariga does not play nice, especially when you're not wearing armor. That little Osiris attack from Dark Souls 3 right there. That one scares me, man.
Yeah, that one would be pretty tough
swipe
here. Nice kill healer from CBD. Going to be marking Demi-Human Mariga in just a second. There it is. That's going to showcase to Bushy, like, hey, I already have Cerulean Coast access. Like, you can try and call my bluff. Wendy's 4 for 4, by the way.
Wendy's 4 for 4 on the board. Let's go.
Let's go. But yeah, this is interesting because Bushy called his bluff once on Egon's Furled Finger. Maybe he's going to call it again and be like, hey, you got Mariga, but are you going to actually like hold priority again? Because I'll call it again. And it looks like he might be going for Swordsman here if he has the time, or at the very least get Dragon Communion Altar.
I really like this from CBD. He's getting the sorceries now. Dude, this is why I was so happy for this matchup, because these players play very similarly. Like, they are very strategic, very calculated. They like playing controlled bingo. They like trying to control what their opponent can and can't go for. I was pretty much, yesterday when I was watching the matches back on my stream, I was like pretty much saying that this was going to be like one of the better matches of the playoffs, because I love the way these two players' play styles kind of collide, because they play very similarly. They both like to set up squares, they like to play for the synergies, and they like to kind of hide their progress in a way that still makes sense. They're not like intentionally like hemorrhaging progress elsewhere in order to hide their progress. So I think this matchup is going to be great. I hope that we see 3 games. That would be very nice, because I think we're going to get a lot of entertaining bingo out of these two.
Yeah. No, 100%. Bushy here grabbing the main Gosh right now. Going to be prepping possibly Rolana, I want to say. I don't expect Mesmer, especially now that the diagonal is blocked now. I don't really expect the parry Mesmer that much. Although, I mean, I guess row 2 is there, but that's more for CBD in this case rather than Bushy. I'm still expecting Rolana parries from Bushy instead, especially because I think he mentioned that he parried, or he learned the parries on Rolana way more than Mesmer. Yeah, Hold Laden Necklace here, and then Finger Ruins for CBD. Has 3 sorceries now, Miriam's Vanishing and the 2 Glintstone spells. Just needs 1 more, and he's going to go ahead and I think go for that Spectral Discs sorcery that is right before Deathbird.
Yeah, this is a good play from CBD because he has that coast access, and instead of going for Deo Ruins for that, the Gaius plus hand synergy, he instead didn't sink that much time into setting up Church District. He instead, I believe he has the High Road Grace. He doesn't have the District Grace. He has the High Road Grace, which is just enough progress to say, hey, I'm like there. When he marks sorcery, he's like, hey, I'm kind of here. So you have to respect my Gaius's pants / Remembrance Boss, Giant Hand, and Finger Ruins Deo. CBD marking the square in a minute here. That is 4 sorceries. Boom, there's the block. And as you mentioned, like you said, I don't think Rolana is that bad of a parry target, even though Mesmer does promote direct synergy. There's 4 remembrance bosses on the board, so you need to pick 4 anyway, and Rolana is one of the fastest anyway. So I think that's a fine choice. It also blocks out, again, CBD's column 1. I mean, he's already blocked the diagonal, but getting those corner squares means so much more in a game like this, where the center square is almost unattainable in the first half an hour of the match. As we see Bushy setting up that Recluse's watering hole area. He's going to grab the painting, maybe for the transformation. I do think Lamenter is a bit more better of a synergy play, but the painting is not bad. And possibly even when you get the painting, you can do Bale as Remembrance Boss. That's also an option, as Bale does count as Remembrance Boss in Bingo. Before you guys talk about how he drops a heart, not a Remembrance. He does count as Remembrance Boss in Bingo. What would you like to see from CBD here, though? What do you think is CBD's play? Because he's not going to see what Bushy's doing for quite a bit, I would say.
Looks like, he's currently going for what seems to be Lamenter. Doing the Lamenter transformation combo, going past this Deathrite Bird. I do think that's a good idea.
He's got those backhand blades, too.
What I would like to see, though, not going to lie, is pushing that column 4. Get Heal the Wounded Kindred. Really push Bushy into St Trina Sword or Ascenda Sax. I think that'd be a huge pressure point for him to then try and take over the rest of the board. And really try and go for those combo plays by pushing Bushy into squares that he just has to do that take too much time.
Is Bushy going for a Stone Coffin Fissure for that Trina Sword right now? Is that what his plan is? I would assume there's not much else over here, or he's setting up Karo's Grave,
or he's going for a Lamenter. Maybe he grabbed the painting. He's like, this. I could go for this transformation, but that might take too long. Let me go for Lamenter transformation instead. That might be the double up that I'm looking for right now.
And that would be a huge snipe from CBD, because Bushy has just spent so much time getting over here, and when that gets marked, there is nothing over here besides, I would like to see a Demi-Human Swordsman though from Bushy. That would be kind of nice, calling that bluff. And that's what he's doing. I think it's either Demi-Human Swordsman or the Rolling Ram. I like this a lot. This is a very heads-up bingo. You can look at that synergy and say, hey, there is Lamenter plus transformation, but the last thing that Bushy saw was 4 sorceries. So you can either assume that Bushy is that CBD is in Shadowkeep into Deo Ruins for the 4 sorceries, or he is just kind of progressing other squares since he did the what is it called, Raya Ruins or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like this a lot from Bushy. He's calling that bluff, and he's going to get 2 squares out of this, and so is CBD. It's going to be an even trade, which if they keep going 2 for 2, Bushy ends up winning. But I do think that Bushy has access over, I want to say 2 more, even 3 more squares over CBD, because he has Mesmer, parries, and Kindred Rot in his back pocket.
Yeah, I don't know. I do like this, though, from Bushy. This is pretty much I don't know if you've ever played any fighting games, but it's pretty much when you never, low block and you just keep, normal blocking, and then someone just keeps kicking you on the toes. And you're like, well, stop doing that. It's in this case, it's Bushy being like, hey, stop bluffing. Why hold priority? I'm going to keep calling your bluffs on this priority. And I like this a lot because we would definitely, especially at the beginning of the season, like holding priorities and stuff was a very, very common, thing to do, and it still is to a degree, I would say, where you're like, hey, I just know that you're going to respect my line. I know you're going to respect my square priorities, and he's kind of turning against that, being like, no,
There's that ram.
I'm not going to. I'm going to go for things that I feel like you're going to hold priority on, and that's a good choice here from Bushy, grabbing that ram. And I think, honestly, still going to go for Lamenter and Transformation, maybe push that column too.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea from Bushy. It is going to unfortunately get blocked out here in about a couple of minutes. He is going back to the Cerulean Coast, so that could indicate Demi-Human Swordsman, because he would have to go up to Karos to go for Lamenter.
I feel like it's not worth it, though. It's a dead square. It doesn't promote either rows anymore or blocks anything, Like, I don't see it being worth... he's, I guess, calling the bluff again on priorities here, but it doesn't promote anything at all. If anything, I would rather see him do Lamenter because he doesn't know exactly what CBD's up to, or start prepping something else instead. Prep a column 1 block, prep a row 2 block.
Prep row 2, yep.
Get something out of the way, either push majority or promote your own lines, but going for squares right now that maybe sure are easy to pick up right away, I don't think is right now on the priority list.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Bushy, I think I'm just assuming that CBD is going for Deo Ruins into Gaius. So I think he's going to go for Swordsman into Lamenter, maybe going for like that insane like triple up. So, I mean, honestly, this is really good for Bushy because he's going to waste as little time as possible traveling to Lamenter.
Yeah.
This is like he's like basically not going to waste any of his time. He's going to be just taking out this Demi-Human Swordsman here, hopefully not having an incident. Please do not get Caster Cursed. And it looks like he's got this. He's got the stagger. Okay. And there it is. Demi-Human Swordsman. And
that was weird. There it is, Lamenter as well for CBD. This is interesting because for CBD, they're on that fight. I'm not sure if you saw that there for a second, but Lamenter already was staggered, so all the transformations went away. But the weird thing is that in the middle of fighting, like 10 seconds after all of his copies vanished, Lamenter still did the crying animation, and so then CBD was able to get a bunch of free hits in and didn't get a second, clone attack, I would say. Or clone transition. So there it is, though. That double up is huge for CBD in this case. Bushy also getting 2 squares, but still CBD 1 square in the lead right now, blocking out column 2 and blocking out that row 3. I think this is a better play from CBD rather than Bushy because he blocked out 2 different lines now. With Bushy going for Demi-Human Swordsman, which sure, again, free square, but doesn't really do anything. But it looks like that maybe
is he setting up Senisax?
He might be. Maybe also considering Bale, potentially?
Yeah, Senisax and the Bale makes sense because it's actually one Remembrance boss and the Dragon boss square.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
It's a
really long square. The problem with that is that it's really long, and during that time, as we can see, CBD is already catching up in Shadowkeep progress. He's going to get through that back section, and is probably going to go for something like Gaius' Pants, or Kindred Rot, or Giant Hand. And it just looks like that CBD has a better board position, like you said, because Bushy did go for Swordsman, which was like kind of like a dead square.
Yeah.
So as a result, Bushy lost Transformation, so he lost his column 2. He also lost Lamenter, so now column 1 is like a real thing now. So I think CBD has a better board spot in the current moment. I don't hate setting up Senisax. I think that's like totally fine. Although if he had done this earlier and gotten the transformation square, that would have made a lot more sense because he does have the painting. So he could have maybe raced this instead of going for Demi-Human Swordsman, honestly, because he could have promoted, the Senisax, the Dragon bosses, the Remembrance bosses, and gotten transformation square maybe. So I think you're right. I think this is going to cost Bushy a little bit, him going for that Swordsman play, because it really, because both columns and rows that were being threatened by Swordsman were already blocked out before this even happened, like before Bushy started even going for it. So I totally agree. I think this might cost him because if he keeps going 2 for 2, 1 for 1 with CBD, he loses the majority game, and also is going to be forced into these bingo threats, like addressing these bingo threats.
I do.
He's going for.
I do like this from Bushy though, going for Dancing Lion here, because not only is it 4 remembrance bosses, which is like going to be that column 1 block that he really needs, but also Revered Ashes is just on the way for going for this Dancing Lion. So I do like that. I do like this play. I think this play is definitely better. It's not going to take too long. He has the great katana, so he's got pierce damage, so that's going to be really nice. We'll make that fight a little bit quicker. But after that, I'm not sure exactly what you do at this point, because I think, if anything, for Bushy, Healing the Wounded Kindred is your best bet to block out column 4 and row 2 at the same time. I feel like pushing Healing the Wounded Kindred would be your best idea, just to get rid of those 2 threats. That way you can go for the easier stuff. Go for those parries that you just set up for. You know, go for some of the pickups that you really could go for, like St Trina's sword. But I think taking care of Healing the Wounded Kindred would be your best bet, but because of that column 4 row 2.
I agree for multiple reasons, and the biggest reason is because at this point in the match, the only play that makes sense for CBD is setting up his Storehouse Loft Grace, which is what he's doing right now. So if he just punishes CBD for spending his time, or like even like delaying his progress for Shadowkeep for so long, like if he just punishes CBD with that Kindred Rot, saying like, hey, like I'm here too, you have to respect my progress here too. That would be pretty huge. But it looks like now that CBD has the Storehouse Loft Grace, he's gonna have the advantage over Bushy, because Bushy has first floor. He doesn't have the back section. So CBD has access to the entire Shadowkeep now. He can get Mesmer, he can get Gaius. He can pivot that into Berlana with parries, maybe. He can heal the Kindred Rot. Like, all those squares that we were mentioning before that Bushy had prio over, now CBD kind of has the prio over. And it looks like CBD is heading for Scorched Ruins for...
Heal the Wounded Kindred. He's going for that square. If CBD gets this, it's pretty... I don't want to say anything too soon, but I'm going to say it's pretty much over at that point. Because at that point, you have 3 different bingo lines. You got column 1, column 4, and row 2 kind of staring you in the face. You don't know where to go. Each row and column has its own unique thing that you have to travel a lot for, and it's going to be a huge guessing game for Bushy, which we're going to kind of see, which we had yesterday versus Chris, where it's like, okay, what do you pick? This is literally just a 50-50 coin flip. There is no real, way to tell where exactly your opponent is, and it's going to be really hard to climb back from that.
For sure. I think Kindred Rot definitely... it's still possible.
Oh, it's still possible.
From
it's
Bushy.
Very hard.
I don't think he will pivot, though, which is kind of the problem. I don't know if going for Revered Ash now was a play. I think doing it after you block out with Kindred Rot was better. It looks like he's going for Dancing Lion, which does make sense because there is a Revered Ash actually right after the Lion.
Yeah.
So you can get that extra one as well. He's going to lose out on a lot here, but we will see. If he can maybe block that column 1 with that Remembrance boss square, that'd be kind of nice to see. Which you're in the Dancing Lion fight. Like you said, that piercing damage is so much to Dancing Lion. We'll see if he utilizes Savage Lion's Claw at all.
I would be surprised. I feel like it wouldn't do so well in this specific fight. I feel like they're only good. It's only good for NPCs, really.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
And that's where like overhead stance I feel like is better, because you can use it on either big boss fights or NPCs, and it has almost the same effectiveness.
Well, Bushy also he killed Munithil, so we had access to that Rolana's cameo, which is very, very strong with overhead stance. But I think he just prefers the Savage Lion's Claw. Really nice phase 1 though. Really nice charge dart too as well. Good spacing from Bushy here. Like, this is a really good Dancing Lion fight for sure.
Yeah.
He's definitely been studying up and practicing his Dancing Lion.
Definitely a very quick fight. Already 2/3 of the way done. 1/3
A second
left
stagger.
Over.
Wow.
That's huge.
Wow. That was very clean. He should finish it off here. Maybe like one more R1 after the charge dart too. But that was a very, very clean Dancing Lion fight.
Didn't even get a second element, by the way. He was only in the lightning phase. That was really fast.
Pretty sure that was hitless besides that last hit at the end right there, by the way.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was good.
There's Healing the Wounded Kindred, though, for CBD. Going to be getting that really powerful inner corner square that we've been showcasing and talking about. And, yeah, that's going to be tough now for Bushy. Trying to figure out what to do. Because, again, like I mentioned, column 4, now it's St Trina sword. Now it's Ancient Dragon Cenosax. That could be a distraction. That could be a thing of like, hey, these are 2 really crappy squares that I'm not going to do. You could do those. And this might be a thing where Bushy might call the bluff and be like, hey, I don't think you're actually going to do column 4. You might be doing column 1. instead, or he might be doing road
Yeah.
2 instead.
I think Mesmer is just the best call here from CBD. I think like just getting more squares on that dude. Like he's gonna run with the game if like Bushy doesn't do something soon. Like there's not much he could even do because he went through front axis of Shadowkeep.
Right.
And he doesn't have access to Mesmer, so he's basically like locked out of anything that CBD is gonna be closing out the game with, because there's Mesmer that puts him at 9. And then there's like Gaius's Pants 10, Giant Hand 11, Parry's 12. So he needs to do something to block all these Shadowkeep squares that are just gonna like pile up on Bushy. Oh my god, no! This skip is so. It's one of those skips where it just really feels bad to miss it, man.
And Bushy did not grab that Revered Ash after Dancing Lion, by the way. I'm not sure if he is aware of that Revered Ash, but he did not grab it, so that's unfortunate. On top of all that,
Looks like CBD going for the Mesmer. I like this a lot from CBD. I think this is a power play because he's gonna promote that road 2, like you mentioned. I think Parry's has to be the play if you're Bushy. I would have liked to see Kindred rot, but now that he's lost Kindred rot, I think Parry's is now your best bet. And it looks like he's gonna be setting up for Lana now. I can't really see much else reason to go here besides for Lana. Pretty clean phase 1 from CBD.
Nice.
Yeah, those backhand blades just shred him, man.
He is weak to slash damage. He is prone to bleeding. I mean, it is one hell of a combo. Same with like Midra, right? This is like the perfect combo. Materia Mother Fingers as well. All weak to slash. Oh, my god. Yeah. Very. Oh, it could have killed him there. Oh, there it is. What?
Oh,
interesting. Died mid snake.
Yeah. I believe if the snake is active, even though the health bar is empty, it'll finish the attack before he actually dies, which is kind of funny. So, yeah, CVD getting that Mesmer kill. Probably gonna go for either Gaius or Parry's, or I mean, he could take his pick at this point. Like he decided he has to pick 4 squares that Bushy can't contest or isn't going to contest, and then he just has this majority.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Gaius makes the most sense because it leads into 2 squares and it also promotes row 2 even more.
Yeah, overall, it's just going to be a tough spot. Oh, no, CBD, not CBD, Bushy going for the Savage Lion's Claw. Gets input
That's the
red.
thing, is like, neither player had any terrible incidents, not that I know of. Like, this is just how bingo goes sometimes. Sometimes you just lose because you just chose, like, either the less efficient or, like, you know, the less pressing squares in the moment. Like, this was not at all a bad game from Bushy at all. I think CBD just chose the better pressure points, and I think that his ability to read a board and to create threats is just like it's one that I've struggled the hardest against anyone else that I've played against. Playing against CBD has been the hardest because you don't really know what's in his head because you know. I say that he loves Shadowkeep. I say that he loves back section, but sometimes he'll just do like Mesmer, or like Hitless, or he'll do like, you know, he'll do like the play that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it's like not as efficient. But like 5 minutes down the line, you're like, oh, he was building this, and this was like a super dangerous threat, and that's what we saw with that row 2 from CBD. That's really what he wanted, the pressure after that column 4. So, Bushy have a nice fight though. He does get the 6 parry, so he will get this block on the row 2. And now it's a guessing game. And now he has to guess what CBD is up to. You have to prevent him from getting 4 squares. If you're Bushy, what are you predicting? What are your predictions for what CBD has to do and what you're going to snipe him on?
Well, in this case, if I'm Bushy and I'm going to be blocking out parries here, I'm just going to consider that row 2 dead from now on. And then afterwards, if anything, I'm expecting Commander Gaius' Pants for sure. If I'm looking at all the lines that I have to block, Commander Gaius is just the most comfortable. It plays into Remembrance bosses. It's an easy pickup, and it promotes a line. Like that's definitely going to be the next square that is going to be picked up.
I'm stressed out.
Regardless. And Bushy here possibly has no more red flasks. Does get the kill here on Rolana.
That was stressing me out a little bit.
That was very stressful. 2 Remembrance bosses though here for Bushy. I think going for Gaius here is not a good idea. Kind of like you're chasing a shadow at this point. I think if anything, honestly, leaning into possibly Ancient Dragon, Senesax, and Bale. Going for Bale first, though. That way you have Remembrance Boss and Dragon Boss build up on column 1 would be a good play. I think going for Bale here right away would be nice. Otherwise, after this, I'm not going to lie, I would go for Frenzy. I'd go for Midra.
No. I take back what I said. I think this game is not as over as it seems now that I think about it, because now CBD is going for that Egon Drake. He's going for Dragon Bosses. Bushy missing the skip again. That's tough. He needs this precious time. This is his moment to come back into the game. He needs to snipe on Dragon Bosses. He needs to snipe on Remembrance Bosses. He can leave Gaius and he can leave hand to, hey, I don't really care that if you get these 2 squares, because I have progress on Senesax. I have progress on Dragon Bosses. I have progress on Remembrance Bosses. I have progress on Frenzy NPC. I have progress on Trina. Like, I think if Bushy plays the rest of his priorities properly, he could come back into this game. I think that he needs to let this Gaius go, in my opinion. I'm not sure if getting back section is truly what you want at this moment in time, because CBD marked Mesmer, and he spent so long that you have to assume that it was back section. Oh no.
That's rough. Yeah, I think if anything, genuinely going for Bale here into Midra with Torn Page and Frenzy NPC would be a huge pickup for sure. Like, if anything, honestly, like, if we're looking at the squares that he could get, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, most likely, possibly even 5 with Dragon Bosses. That could put him up to 12. Now, that just puts him in a really weird position where he either has to go for Giant Hand, Commander Gaius' Pants, or Ancient Dragon, Senesax. No, sorry, Giant Hand, Commander Gaius' Pants, or St Trina Sword. And those 2 leftover squares are Shadowkeep back access. So he would have to get St Trina Sword in order to get 13. Which is the only scary thing, I think.
Here's the problem, is that CBD is going to get Dragon Bosses here in a minute. And that means that CBD can get a 12 off of Giant Hand and Gaius' Pants, which is going to really force Bushy onto the back foot. He needs to guess perfectly on every single square that CBD is doing and beat him on the square. So that's going to be the tough part for Bushy. I think the deaths here on this skip wasted him a lot of time. Like, losing the Dragon Boss square would have not been the end of the world had he had, like, the Church High Road by now. Yeah, I don't know. This is going to be really tough from Bushy to come back into the game. But he does mark the Revered Ash square. He does have level 5 Revered Ash. CBD with the backhand blades on Ghost Flame Dragon, not using the katana, which, I mean, kind of makes sense, because they're kind of cooking with that lightning, dude.
Yeah. Lightning
with the water, it kind of cooks. Look at that damage.
Really nice headshot damage, yeah.
And he gets that repose for that extra dragon repose damage.
That is huge damage.
Yeah.
Almost a 1 cycle.
God damn. He's like Skidoo 7 by now, I feel like. That's really high damage. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's going for the straight up kill.
He just eats the damage. I mean, makes complete sense. And gets the really good RNG here. That is 3 Dragon Bosses. There is that column 1 now.
Oh, that's so rough for Bushy, though. That's so rough for
Puts
Bushy.
him in a really tough spot here for sure.
So now CBD promotes not only Gaius' Pants, but also Remembrance Bosses, if that's the play. If he's going for that column 1, he gets 2 Remembrance Bosses off of he'll get up to 2. He'll get Gaius' Pants that puts him at 12 if he gets both those squares. Then Hand puts him at 13. So if you're Bushy, I think you have to just do Remembrance Bosses. Even though you lost Dragon Bosses, you probably need to still do Bale. He had Brillana already, so I think it would be Bale. It would be... He had Dancing Lion killed as well, so that's 2. And then Brillana is 3. And then his 4th would have to be Mesmer or Shadow Avatar or... I don't know. I guess Mesmer has to be the play from Bushy. I don't know. The deaths really cost him.
Yep.
We see CBD fighting Gaius with that lightning backhand blade.
Doesn't get
the damage is incredible. The damage, I'm not gonna lie, it seems a bit good. It's like good. Probably meta. It's probably meta once you get high decks like 60s, 70s. And CBD is showcasing just how powerful these backhand blades can be, especially with that blue dancer charm, rot sword, thorny crack tier. He's got the full setup, and this is what we're talking about by like backhand blade being better on a lot of bosses, like with Gaius, Mesmer. With the katana, it's more controlled and it's more, double status is nice, but I think the backhand blades outpace for sure. Which is why I even opted to going for backhand blades in my match for CBD, even though it wasn't on the board. I'm like, hey, it seems like it's just better for late game squares.
Grabbing Commander Gaius' pants like immediately, not waiting out on it, and I think that's a really good idea because that really pushes that column 1. And again, I mean, as predicted though, right? That column 4 not worth blocking because CBD didn't even care, and I think Bushy making that call of like, okay, like I know that that's not going to happen is a really good call, but now seeing that Commander Gaius' pants is taken and that column 1 is a huge push is just very nerve-wracking for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think CBD can go ahead and assume that, even though this isn't true, he can assume that Bushy has access on some remembrance bosses. Like he could have had back section by now if he didn't have those costly deaths on the skips. He could have had front entrance all the way up to Mesmer. He could have, bail set up. He could have, like, he definitely has Rolana or like something with parries, so he at least has one. Like CBD knows that he has one. So if you're CBD, I would like to see him contesting the remembrance square, because that one's like it's probably the way that Bushy gets back into the game is through that square. So I mean, I think CBD opts to go for 2 safer squares, which is also a viable option. But I think the remembrance square would end the game a bit quicker. And I think he's going for the high percentage play. I'm going for the giant hand into 1 more safe square. So we'll likely see a Trina sword or a Frenzy NPC.
Yeah, I'm expecting a Trina sword for sure because he has Guts Ruling Coast. I would not be surprised if Trina sword is the last thing that he picks up here. Yeah, this is like I mentioned, I think that healing the Wounded Kindred square really set the tone. If Bushy would have gotten that block, I think this would have gone way differently. I think column 1 of it would still have been a problem, but he wouldn't have had any of those pressure points of, having to do parries right away with Rolana. Wouldn't have to consider at all doing, St Trina or Ancient Dragon Senesax, and just fully focus on blocking that column 1. And not being able to do that because he missed out on dragon bosses now, I think is, that whole like trickle effect of like, hey, I didn't get this square, now I don't get that square because I'm focusing my priority on something else that wasn't as important.
Yeah, I mean, Bushy was behind before the Kindred Rot square, so I can understand that playing for majority when you're behind is a bit risky, because CBD can just choose faster squares. But I personally don't think CBD is much of like a line player. I think he definitely likes to block and play for his own synergies, and those kind of go for like faster majority plays than, just like rushing a line or whatever. So I think Kindred Rot was a correct play for sure. I just think that losing the Dragon Square was also a big loss for Bushy as well, because he had that play of that, like we mentioned, Dragon bosses into Bale, Senesax. He had all that set up. And he also lost Transformation because he had that set up too. He lost like 4 squares that he could have potentially cashed in on if he just did it in a slightly better order. CBD here going for that giant hand that I still have no idea how to fight, and I hate fighting this thing every time. But
it is weird, yeah.
I don't know how you're supposed to roll that attack. I guess you can like strafe it to the side, but I personally have no clue how to fight this thing.
I don't think you can. Yeah, you just have to like hope that he does that, or he like doesn't aim directly at you, and then you just like stick to the wrist. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, CBD doing pretty good damage. It's gonna make a 3 cycle. There it is. Yep, that should be 12 square, and I think he goes for Trina Sword or Frenzy NPC. One of the two is just the highest percentage play. I would say that going for Remembrance bosses now is not necessarily the play, and he's going for the first floor, so I think that does tell us he's going for that lower. Yep, he's going for that lower access to the Recluse's River. And if you're Bushy, how do you know? Like, how do you know that the play is Frenzy NPC, right? Like, playing from 12 squares to any a number. Like 12-11 even, it's just not a fun experience if you're, that player that's playing from behind. It's just like you have to guess perfectly, and you have to outplay your opponent as well. So it's just like compounds, because CBD is going to set up every single square that he possibly can, and then just do whatever Bushy's not doing, which it's just a really tough spot to be in. Like, that's why you never want to go 12 squares down. You always want to be at least at like 11 for that buffer,
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Like the if you're gonna go play the guessing game, at least give me one mistake option, right?
Right.
Like, okay, I guessed wrong. Okay, but I still get one more chance to guess right here. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Bushy possibly making the right play here, going for Watering Hole, and CBD currently in Twins. What is he getting?
He's setting up something.
He's going for
Somber Stones?
Senesax. Dragon Hunter's Katana.
If you're Bushy, how would you know that
Yeah.
CVD is going for Senesax? Like,
Yeah.
potentially, if I'm Bushy, I'm making the call on Frenzy NPC, but like, how do you know? And even if you guessed incorrectly, and if CBD was at 11 squares, it's fine, because Bushy progressed 2 squares with that Frenzy NPC and the Torn Diary page. So I think it's smart from CBD, because it's the only way that Bushy gets back in the game is by getting the double square with Frenzy NPC and Torn page. So if you're Bushy, the only way that you win is Frenzy NPC, then you hold priority on the page, you win Remembrance bosses, and then you win Senesax, and then you win Trina Sword, and then you just win with the priority on Torn Diary page. Like, that is like the only possible way that Bushy can win this game. So CBD is doing like the highest percentage option of just like setting up not even like the longest square out of all these, but just like the one that you wouldn't expect the most, which is, to be fair, very, very smart. But you just can't know as Bushy. There's just no way to know. So I think this is fine from Bushy. I think this call makes a lot of sense. It gets you 2 squares. But yeah, we're gonna probably see CBD marking the Senesax square like about when Bushy is approaching Jory / like killing Jory. But this is just game 1. We still have another game. That's the beauty of best of 3s, is that CBD has to win one more time. If he does take the win here, he needs to get another win. So we'll see if he can survive the best of 3, because best of 3s it's where those players shine, man. It's where you give me 2 chances and I'll come through. You gotta respect the ability for Bushy to come back. You can't expect Bushy to roll over after this game.
And that's the thing, like, again, for Bushy in this late game, it's generally such a hard decision, because 3 of the squares are so separate from each other. Frenzy NPC, St Trina Sword, and Senesax are all like so far apart that, like, how are you going to guess correctly? It's genuinely just throwing a dart at a dartboard and just hoping that you hit something. And I mean, sadly, in this case, Bushy did not, guess correctly. But who knows? Maybe there is a Senesax incident for some reason, and then maybe CBD gets in his head and he's like, okay, you know what, maybe I'm being erased on this, let me pivot.
To be fair, that is very common. Like, I have that in my head too sometimes, where like I'll die on a boss, and once you die, you kind of lose all sense of time, and you're like, wait a second, how long has it been actually? And then your internal clock is all off, and then you pivot to like Frenzy NPC gets sniped, and then you go back to Senesax, but Bushy's already there at Senesax, and then he beats you on that, and then you're like, okay, this is uncomfortable. And then it turns into from 12-8 to like a commanding spot to 10-12, and Bushy having priority on 1 square with that Torn Diary page. It's by no means over. I didn't mean to make it sound like it's over. I'm just saying that it's very
good.
It's very, very rough for Bushy, and he needs CBT to have an incident here. And I just think that, like, I don't think he really like played bad at all. I think it was literally just a couple of squares that didn't go his way.
I think it's partially that. I still think the Demi-Human Swordsman, it was definitely one of those moments that were a nail in the coffin type situation, because if he didn't take that time to go for Demi-Human and went for something else, he could have gotten Dragon Bosses before CBD. He could have blocked out that column 1. He could have picked up anything else. Like that square pickup, even though calling a bluff is huge, right, and getting that extra square is huge, it didn't do anything, and Bushy wasn't necessarily in a position to be like, hey, I'm going to call a bluff on a dead square just so I can increase my square count and give CBD more time to create more presences on the board.
For sure. I definitely think that I'd like to see in a game 2 scenario, I want to see Bushy playing for blocks more because he had the right idea. Like I said before the matchup, this is like 2 very similar playstyles colliding.
Yeah.
And I think that whoever gets a small advantage is going to take the game for the most part because of how they play. Like neither of them really deciding to bulldoze one area of the map or like, you know, bulldozing one bingo line. They like playing more controlled bingo, which if you're going to play the controlled game of bingo, you have to make smarter choices and you have to build up better synergies. So I'd like to see Bushy playing for more blocks in game 2. That would be a nice adjustment, nice little halftime adjustment. He'll get some time to breathe, which is like really important for these double headers and best of 3s.
Yeah.
Is that your opponent also has to play another game. Like it's not even like, oh, you know, it's just over because I lost one game. Like you have another shot. And reverse sweeps are very common in esports and in sports in general. Like the person who wins the first game is almost at a disadvantage if the person that wins the second game wins if the opponent that lost the first game wins the second, because reverse sweeps are very common. It builds up a lot of momentum for game 3 because, you know, you're coming off of a win and you're like, yeah, like this is it. Like I have one more shot. I have to win this. And it just puts the opponent on the back foot. So I would love to see 3 games. This would be like a fantastic series, I think, between these two. I just love that, like, how the way that these two play and just seeing them play against each other is just been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. There it is. GG's, by the way, to CBD. I would say, however, actually, I'm going to counter with Bushy should actually bulldoze a line. And instead, I feel like if I know, like, you know, obviously playing a bit more blocky and everything and blocking everything is a good playstyle. However, I do feel like for CBD, facing CBD, if you are bulldozing, I know that CBD is prepping for blocks and is prepping for majority. But if you can get him to where he can't, I guess, make that happen because that line doesn't really allow you to just like do a quick blocking, jump out type situation, like more of a really long distance line, I think that could actually be huge for Bushy, just pushing that all the way through, and not pivoting so much. I think a non-pivot type bingo board where he just goes for a line directly and doesn't bluff either or doesn't hold priorities, I think if anything would throw CBD off, because a lot of players are now, I feel like, accustomed to holding priorities or, you know, kind of building up this whole line instead of just going like, Bop, here's a square. All right, now Bop, here's the square. I'm not prepping anything. I'm not hiding anything. I am playing as truthfully, as honestly as I can by not being deceitful at all. And I think that might be a play style that could really throw somebody else off.
I agree. I would like that too. I'd like to see Bushy or CBD going for that play style because, I mean, you can rattle a player if you get 4 squares on a line. You can really rattle the mental. But I do think we're going to a quick break pretty soon, right? Yeah. I believe we are, okay. Because we're gonna get into game 2 pretty soon here, guys.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead, and that is the first match for CBD. GG's to him. Second match going to be coming up here for CBD and Bushy in just a moment. 10-minute break. We'll be right back, guys. And go ahead, get some snacks, get some drinks. We'll be just a moment. Before I do press start match, Blanks, any guesses on center square?
There is one idea that I've seen floating around for a while now, and one that I think I think might be a center square. Either kill 2 dancing lions or kill a deathblight lion. That would be a very interesting center square because that lion, I did a bit of practice. I have some understanding on it now, a little bit more than I did before, but that is one that I've seen floating around. Although because of that idea has been floating around, I believe that it will not be center square because you want to keep us on our toes. So.
And yeah, here we go. Countdown.
I'm excited.
10 seconds. Here we go. 5 seconds. And this is going to be actually to one kill a remembrance boss with a colossal weapon.
Oh, I like that a lot. That is a lot of fun. Oh, it's so cool too because there's a remembrance weapon as well. So that actually incentivizes going for Shadow Tree Avatar because you're draining the water, you're getting the remembrance weapon from Shadow Tree Avatar, you can dupe the remembrance, and you can kill a boss's colossal weapon and remembrance weapon. That column 3 immediately points out to me that is juicy. We are going to be seeing something, at least.
We do also see upgraded remembrance boss weapon to max at the top right corner here, so that could definitely really push Skidoo Tree Avatar, to be honest, and that could be really cool to see.
I didn't even see the Skidoo Tree Avatar square in row 3 as well. This is the most Skidoo Tree Avatar square or board I've ever seen. Like,
yeah. Oh, 100%.
It's gonna line up so well. And once you get that weapon online too, like it's a weapon. Like it's really, really good for almost everything afterwards. We also see parries square again. Remembrance after parries, hand-to-hand square. We see bulls and ents on a corner again. I would expect CBD to do some kind of play of like bulls into drain the water, or we could see like bulls into like sell the katana, maybe get yourself on that row 5. There's also ADM plus NPC bosses on the board. There is level 10 Skidoo on the board, so that also progresses Shadowkeep. There is Sword of Light and Darkness. This is like a kind of like as much Shadowkeep as like possible, essentially. Like there's like almost a lot of Shadowkeep and a lot of Coast, I would say, is the theme this game. Tiny bit of Bellarat with that Queeline square. Level 85, that means likely Mesmer and Romina, or I guess Mesmer or like Red Bear, Skidoo Tree Avatar. There's going to be like a boss order that these players have in their head for level 85. But likely we're going to be seeing some kind of like Bulls and Ensis / Drain the Water play, or maybe like an ADM play, or like a Sell Katana play. That's what I'm expecting early, and then we're going to see them both heading towards Shadowkeep. So one thing that I'm looking out for is if Bushy is able to nail that skip from Bonnie Village down to Oh Mother, I really want to see him either taking a different approach, or maybe if he practiced it on his break time. I just really want to see him not falling behind in that Shadowkeep race this game.
I was really hoping, to be honestly, seeing Forges on here, because that could have really pushed Anvil Hammer into that center square and people using that, but sadly no Forges on the board. So maybe they still go for one Forge just for that Anvil Hammer, because it is pretty quick to go through that whole Forge. But I'm also not expecting it. I think if anything, it's going to be could be Devonia's Hammer, honestly. That'd be kind of funny. But most likely going to be that Skidoo Tree Avatar Sunflower Hammer.
It looks like we're on our way. We got ourselves a bingo match. This is match number 2 of the day. Looks like CBD heading towards the Scorched Ruins for, I guess, Backhand Blade Scorched Ruins Grace. And then maybe going for Katana right away, because I believe Bushy almost always has used Katana. I don't think he's ever really used Backhand Blades in an official match before. So if you're CBD, do you just hold on to that Sell Katana square because you almost like certainly know that Bushy is going to be using it? Or do you sell it right away just for board presence?
I would hold on to it.
A threat?
I would hold on to it, and what I would do then is I would slowly maybe try and prep either column 2 or row 5, and then at the very end be like, I still have Great Katana. Let me just sell that sucker right now. Now what are you going to do? I'm going to double up on these pressure points here. I could easily go for, let's say, go kill Red Bear with Backhand Blades and go for Queeline, and then next thing I know, sell Great Katana. Now it's only level 85 and let a left. Like, how are we going to react to that right away? That would be a really nice, I think, power play for sure. It is risky, obviously, holding on to that, but I could totally see that being a thing here where you hold on to it and you play knowing that the other player is well accustomed to Great Katana.
I do really hope we see a bit of a resurgence from Bushy in this match. I would love to see him thriving on a board like this, because that Backhand Blade might not be as good for Skidoo Tree Avatar as the Great Katana would be with that Flame Spear, perhaps. Seeing hats on the board would make me a bit happier about going for Flame Spear, because it does absolutely shred the Skidoo Tree Avatar.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what their first plays of the match are, because there are a couple of rush squares, but I expect Bulls and Ensis to be CBD's play, just because it's kind of like a personal read I have on CBD. He loves that square. It's on a corner. It's, really, really good to go for. Very efficient. I believe Bushy is going to get his Katana all ready and set up. Bushy selling his Great Katana. We're going to be seeing a Bushy Backhand Blade game, or maybe even a Bushy Anvil Hammer game. That would be interesting to see.
That.
That's kind of interesting. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Bushy actually selling it, which is really cool because if you're CBD and you're making the read that Bushy holds on to the katana, or he used the katana, but
Oh,
you like with a different approach to this game, and I really like that.
everything right there, Blanks?
Streams are frozen, man. I'll refresh.
Yeah, I think it's your internet because your Discord's freaking out too. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, oh, you're back. I think it was your internet. I think your internet freaked out there for
Yeah.
a second.
Yeah.
All
No
good,
worries,
though.
no
Welcome back,
worries.
welcome back.
Right,
yeah, so
cool.
backhand blade's being upgraded here by CBD. Has the black-white blade already as well. Going for castle front. I think he's going for balls again. An early balls with backhand blades for that corner square.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think that Civi did not expect Bushy to sell his katana. I really think he caught him off guard with that, and that's insane that Bushy has like been holding on to using backhand blades till the playoffs. Like, that to me is some like next level bingo mind gaming. Because if I'm playing against Bushy, I 100% believe that he only uses the great katana in official matches. So I like that a lot from him.
Yeah.
CBD here going for that backhand blade bulls
Nice.
kill. That's a big bleed proc.
Oh, gets the insta riposte though. Doesn't get to get any extra hits in. Doesn't get the. That's a shame. That's a shame. Could have gotten a one cycle.
Unfortunately, you can get that vacuum riposte, which is never really what you want. Doing the earthquake slam right there, the giant AOE, and I genuinely have no idea how to fight this boss. By the way, like, this one is like very tough for me. I almost die all the time on this.
Well, it's fun with balls actually in this specific area is that for some reason there is an animation that when he does do that charge attack that we just saw, if you have it to where you run into the building or at the very least stand near a wall, he bounces off the wall. Like he like collides with it, and like it mini staggers him. There it is though. Balls for CBD marked. Very, very nice. Did not mark Moon with Hill this time. Very nice. And moving into a one-on-one tie here currently, but corner square for CBD.
Yeah, I mean, I like this a lot from CBD as well because he gets himself on the corner. He also technically has a bit more progress over Bushy because he has his weapon set up and he killed Bulls and he's going to set up this Pillar Path Waypoint Grace. I actually like this a lot. I like going for the Pillar Path Waypoint Grace because there isn't really a whole lot right now that's threatening you, maybe besides like Concoction. So I think this is cool. This is like a good play from CBD to get that Waypoint Grace. We haven't really seen a whole lot of that. Most players have been rushing Skidoo Altus Progress. But I expect him to go for either ADM or Logre next.
Yeah.
If he's going to, like, for these like rush squares. I would say Logre is a tiny bit better because it promotes that column 4. But yeah, CBD has ADM pretty much all ready to go. All he has to do is pull the trigger on that when he gets a little bit more Skidoo, when he gets progress on Shadowkeep. And I think, honestly, rushing Drain the Water if you're Bushy is not a bad call. I think that's totally okay. Looks like CBD is setting up the Concoction.
Though. Oh, yeah, okay. Actually, I think that's what Bushy's going for, too.
Okay, so they both are. But CBD is going for the skip now? Oh, he's afraid of talking too many times, or not talking enough, I guess? Okay.
Yeah, I think he's out. Yeah.
So, it looks like CBD is going for Skidoo Altus Progress while Bushy goes for TLA's Concoction. I would have liked to see Drain the Water be prioritized a bit more, because whoever drains the water has, like, insane progress on that insane column building up in column 3. But, I mean, I don't hate the rush squares, like, at all. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I love me a good rush square, but I do think that you can kind of, like, over commit to those rush squares, and then you just end up, like, Omega behind on the Shadowkeep progress. So, I think Concoction's fine here, but I would like to see him not go for Logre or, like, not go for ADM. Like, I want to see him start going towards Shadowkeep once he gets this Concoction square, because CBD is, like, very far ahead right now. So, if anything, even though he loses Drain the Water, if CBD rushes it, and there he is, there we see the Concoction square marked. If CBD is rushing Drain the Water, CBD will not know when Bushy drains his water, because the square has been marked and that information becomes hidden now to CBD. So he could potentially sneak that scattering avatar. So it's not even like if CBD drains the water, it's like over. Because you also have to set up like a good weapon, and you have to get like fire, wet blade, and whatnot. So like there is a little bit more prep time involved with going for that Skidoo tree. So I would like to see Bushy following CBD to Shadowkeep here.
Well, it looks like CBD actually going for Ancient Dragon Man now after seeing Concoction.
Interesting. Yeah. Just getting progress on row 4 and column 3. You know, I kind of like this because the column 3 is easily blocked by ADM, so Bushy could just as easily just block column 3 and not have to really worry about it anymore. So I don't hate ADM at all. I think this is like a good play. It also plays into NPC bosses in the bottom left corner. It'll be a block for Bushy's row 5. Yeah, I mean, where do you see this board going besides Tree Avatar? Where do you see this board going in the future, and where do you think these players are going to end up? Like, where are they going to put pressure first?
We're going to see a Gaius, I think, pretty soon, to be honest. Because we have level 10 Skidoo, we've got Killer Base Game Boss in the DLC, so that could be a Tree Sentinel pickup here. I'm expecting a Gaius. I'm expecting a Loger very soon. I'm possibly expecting a Queeline here from Bushy. Actually, if he's near Skidoo Altus here, push that Red Bear into Queeline. Again, that column 2, like I mentioned before, not a bad pressure point for that level 85 and Let on Her Companions. If you can get that Skidoo Altus access, go for Red Bear, which is more money, and then go for Queeline. You can really already kind of like front load a lot of levels for that level 85 and make that Let on Her Companions a really strong pressure point for CBD to kind of push into. And like I said last match, if Bushy does go for like just one line and really pushes it, I think that would really throw off CBD here, and he could easily take away match 2.
I would really like to see 3 games of bingo. So even though I am completely neutral, I would like to see Bushy make some better decisions this game and take game 2, just because I want to see these 2 players playing again. As I mentioned yesterday, when I was reviewing my own matches, I was like, this is going to be a very good matchup between 2 players that are very skilled at what they do, and they have very similar play styles, like I keep saying. So I just love seeing how the game is just changing in real time.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as one player does one thing, they're like, okay, how can I like react to that, and how can I change my play style? Because if you're CBD, like, you know, Bushy sold his katana. He never does that. He's like almost never done that in any game that I've ever seen of Bushy. He always uses katana. So if you're CBD, it's kind of like panic time. It's like, okay, like I don't know if like what to do now. Like I don't know whether I need to rush squares, whether I need to rush Shadowkeep. But I think you're totally right. I think Gaius is the play for sure, because what you can do actually is you can kill guys with hand-to-hand only. You can kill a base game boss. You can kill Tree Avatar with the Gaius Lance, and then you can take that Tree Remembrance and upgrade it to max, and then kill a Remembrance Vault. So there's like a massive play here that could be developing for either player. Whoever decides to pull the trigger on Shadowkeep is going to get a massive cash-in of squares. So I would just like to see how this develops over time.
Yeah, there's Ancient Dragon Man for CBD's. Bushy, however, sadly, does die to the Morth Rune skip again, or to the Bonneville skip again. Going for a Skidoo fragment here right now. I'm going to pick that up. Maybe do the other skip instead, the more safer Bonneville skip here. It's maybe a little bit more time consuming, sure, but it's just more guaranteed, I would say, in this case for Bushy. That's a weird angle.
Oh no,
not guaranteed at all in that way. Has to really jump correctly. I don't know. I'm surprised that this is such a a crux here for Bushy doing the Bonnie skip over anything else on this board.
Yeah, I mean, Bonnie skip has been a staple, honestly, in bingo. Like, you need to do this skip, otherwise you have to go all the way down the well and you have to climb up a really long ladder.
Yeah.
So Bonnie skip is up there with importance as this like Tiolie skip, pretty much. Like it's pretty up there in terms of what you need to know as general like bingo knowledge. And there we go. There's Bushy going for the double jump there. Yeah, that's just textbook Bonnie skip right there. It's one that I prefer as well. Like I've died way more times doing the one that you saw Bushy doing before.
Yeah.
I like this one a lot. He's going down to O Mother now. It's slightly more time consuming, but you do net yourself a Skidoo Tree fragment and a Gold Horn Tender from that pot dropping NPC, which actually plays in level 85 very nicely because you can get, I believe it's 40% more runes from a boss kill. So I think that going this way has a lot of value this game because of that Golden Horn Tender, for sure.
The sad
and level
thing
10
here,
Skadu as well.
Yeah, the sad thing here, however, is Bushy dying twice to Bonnie skip really has CBD now almost like right behind him. He's currently at, you know, the Dane Gray is going to be going for that Bonnie skip here himself in just a moment. And so Bushy could have been easily already, you know, in Church District and could have already been progressing a lot of these extra things, draining the water on top of that. He doesn't have that much extra time, although it looks like CBD actually going to be going for some Skidoo fragments and Highland Cross first before going for Bonneville.
Well, I mean, if you're CBD, you can't just assume that Bushy died twice. Like, you have to assume that there's been some kind of progress happening elsewhere. For sure. Bushy has not marked since Concoction, which is like a very rushable square. And I was talking about that yesterday as well. I was talking about how, like, there's a dynamic where a player will normally do 1 or 2 rush squares, then, like, head towards Shadowkeep or head towards, like, a longer game square, which has kind of been, like, the quote-unquote meta for Bingo, is you want to get your early squares, like, locked in, and then you want to progress the map after that. So CBD is kind of playing into that as well. He's going to kind of follow Bushy to Shadowkeep now, instead of the other way around, like we mentioned before, how, you know, Bushy could have hid his progress by draining the water after CBD. But it looks like it's going to be the opposite now. It's going to be CBD following Bushy to Shadowkeep, and we'll see if CBD can get like a sneaky square off of Bushy by Bushy like holding progress for too long on something.
I'm not gonna lie, I would prefer seeing CBD actually sticking to the earlier squares here and let Bushy kind of do some of the prep to see what exactly the plan is. I think honestly CBD, Loger, and Queelan and Bellerat would be really nice because they would push that row one for him, but also block that column 2 that is so easy to really kind of dominate at some point. That would be, I think, a nice play from CBD instead of kind of chasing, you know, this Church District progress.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's safe to assume that Bushy is going for this, though. So I think what CBD could do is grab the Rope Bridge or the Church High Road, and then, like you said, go for that Loger, go for that, you know, go for more NPC bosses, set up hand-to-hand. You know, I mean, I think these early squares are very important on this board because I think you can kind of outpace your opponent. Because rush squares do kind of counter those like longer squares, because if you can just make pressure points everywhere on the board, there's no way they can address them all, and you can just go ahead and once you built that pressure, you can go ahead and then make your map progress. Once you've built up pressure on 2 or 3 columns, you can then kind of sneak up behind them and say, hey, I'm in Shadowkeep now, even though I've gone for all these rush squares, because they've spent all their time blocking you out.
Right.
So,
surprisingly, CBD not going for Oh Mother gesture here, by the way. That doesn't really lock him out of anything necessarily, but it does make kill a boss, base game boss in the DLC a little bit trickier, not being able to go for that Tree Sentinel. So that's the only thing I can really see that would really, you know, make it a little bit tougher, but otherwise skipping it, not that big of a deal. Yeah, let's see how this turns out here. Money for Bushy right now, going to be draining the water here just maybe like 20-30 seconds from now. So by the time CBD does reach Church District, this is going to be drain the water for Bushy here. Going to be blocking out that column 3 and row 2, which is, you know, one of the scarier lines that we've been talking about for a while now. I would like to see potentially, honestly, row 3 also still not that bad. Like we were talking about column 2 before and how that's really strong for Bushy. Row 3 also really not that bad. If you drain the water, you got Skidoo Tree, you got level 10 Skidoo from Gaius, you got the colossal weapon only. So if you kill Skidoo Tree and then use the Sunflower on Gaius, that could be huge. And then you just have Red Bear left.
for sure. Bushy here draining the water. I totally agree. I think that whoever gets access to Skidoo Tree, which, you know, Bushy does have the access over CBD at this point. I do think that whoever gets access here is gonna, he's gonna pivot out and he's going to hold the progress. And so, if you're a CBD, would you rather go for Gaius instead? Maybe like hand-to-hand Gaius. You could do like a play where you get Gaius weapon to max, because it's a little bit easier to max out the sword lance than it is to max out the Sunflower Hammer. And then maybe go for a Skidoo Tree Avatar after that, because you can put Flame Spear on the Sword Lance. Don't really know how this board's going to play out because it's kind of like it's volatile. I think this board's very, very volatile, and we're going to see how this plays out because Bushy's going for Logre right now.
This is not what I wanted to see from Bushy. I wanted to see him push either column 2 or row 3, like just really bulldoze that line. Don't hold the priority, just really take it away. And instead, he's doing exactly what CBD should be doing, and kind of taking away some of these squares, I guess, in this case. Going to be taking away that column 4/row 1, and maybe going for Queeline afterwards. If he does go for Queeline after this, I would be okay with that because then he does progress that column 2, which I still think is a really, really good line for him to kind of lean into.
Yeah, for sure. I would have liked to see Bushy building up more pressure. I totally agree. I think that like that's how you play against a player that likes to play for map progression is you kind of like you shake them early by giving them 2 or 3 threats to deal with. CBD going for Drain the Water as well. Like I said, that progress is now hidden. Bushy has no idea that CBD's here. He's taking out Logre, though. Once he gets the weapon, he's going to mark the square. And a little bit of pressure on that 0-1 now. So I would say Queeline here because it promotes as well. What exactly? See Chop? Oh, he's back to 4. Okay, so he's going for like Repair or... I guess it's fine too if you can use Tender. It's okay. Good amount of runes for level 8. Good progress column 2. And CD also going for Red Bear. Looks like I mean this is a good square. This is a very good square for both players. If you're CBD, you're blocking 2 row threats. You're blocking the column 2 and the row 3. If you're Bushy, you're promoting both your column 2 and your row 3. So this is a very good recognition from CBD because he saw that Logre was marked, so he had time to go to more throw-ins and contest the square.
Yeah, but
so we'll see who gets the square first.
This is definitely Bushy at the head start. We do have a Bushy and a bit of an 8-second delay here, sadly, due to his streaming setup. So this is definitely Bushy currently ahead. Both of them backhand blades, though. And I wonder, okay, Bushy putting on the armor, this might actually matter, to be honest, as he has a little bit more resistance versus Red Bear. Might not get one shot right away compared to CBD, who could get easily just one shot or possibly 2 shot by Red Bear.
Yeah, I mean, and CBD opting for the Blue Dancer's Charm, but Bushy, I mean, it's got a bleed on it. It doesn't matter if you have more raw damage. The bleed procs are still there, and he's also ahead in general, so...
Yep.
I don't know.
Oh
my god,
attacked.
He gets bear hugged! Oh my god.
That is a huge waste of time.
That's time for CBD to catch up.
Huge time.
CBD's in the lead, I think.
Oh, his damage is so much higher.
Yeah, his damage is there. The roar coming out from Bralva.
Oh, into a stagger.
The stagger.
Wow,
into
this is CBD's.
Oh my god, that's disgusting.
Bushy has barely gotten a single hit in since that grab attack.
Bushy getting a stagger.
Yeah, too late.
But he goes to the repose.
Ugh. Yeah, no. This is definitely CBD's here. That's going to be a huge snipe / block for sure. Blocks at that row 3 and that column 2 that we were talking about. Takes it away.
So even though Bushy is ahead on squares, I think CBD is in a pretty good spot right here because Bushy has no clue at what CBD was doing besides the Red Bear. Like, he doesn't know if CBD has Shadowkeep over him. He doesn't know if he drained the water. And it looks like CBD, that's where he's heading towards, either Skadutri or upstairs to Commander Gaius. Yeah. I mean, if you're Bushy, what do you do? Do you promote your row 5? Like, do you maybe go for something in row 5? Do you go for Queeline to promote that row 1? Like, CBD missing the skip. I don't know. This could be interesting. It looks like... Bushy going for Queeline. I was going to say, though, if he does go for Queeline, it is easily blocked if CBD gets that Skadutri square, because CBD just upgrades his Remembrance weapon to max, and then he kills Remembrance boss with Remembrance weapon. So he has multiple blocks prepped for row 1. I don't think row 1 is really your win condition if you're Bushy. I think some kind of row 5 could work out, but the problem with that is that you have to dupe a Remembrance, which if CBD gets Skadutri first, he probably dupes first, I would say.
I mean, look at this, though. Like, max is not that easy because you have to get a smithing 10, smithing 25, stone. You don't just get those. You can't just buy those. So you have to either go for the Ghost Flame Dragon that drops the Somber 10, or you go for the forges for plus 25. So you still have to time sync. And I don't know. I feel like if you go for Queeline and Bellerat here now, which is definitely something Bushy is considering, and I think that's a good idea, is then go straight for a Skidoo and really upgrade that hammer, that colossal hammer, and then right with that plus 9 Sunflower, go kill a Ghost Flame Dragon because it's holy damage. Get that Somber 10, and then go straight for a boss right afterwards. And I think that could be a really nice power play for that row 1 too.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bushy just had to get Red Bear. I think that's a pivotal square. Like, I think this might change the game, even though Bushy has more squares. I think it does change the game quite a bit. What I would like to see, though, from Bushy is instead of Queeline, maybe setting up Queeline and then going for maybe upstairs to Gaius. The idea behind that would be there is the suppressing pillar by Pillar Path Waypoint, where if you go up to the top of that tower, there's a Somber or an Ancient 25 up there. So you could potentially get to Gaius, kill Gaius, and get his weapon to max before CBD can get Skidoo trees to max, potentially. But it does look like he is going for Queeline. I honestly don't think this is the play, because there's no reason for CBD to be here right now. There really isn't a whole lot here besides maybe killing Lion with a Remembrance weapon. But I definitely think that the play here for Bushy would not be Queeline. It would be some kind of like Gaius play. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
We're seeing Skidoo Tree here now from CBD, grabbing that with the red hot wet blade. Does have fire on those backhand blades. Should be decent damage.
That is not fantastic, because he's very low Skidoo right now. But I think that if Bushy isn't going right for Gaius after this, I think there's no way that CBD loses the square. Like, surely with all this time spent doing Queeline, setting up Bellerat, CBD will be able to get that progress on the Skidoo tree. However, it'd be interesting to see if CBD cashes in right away on all those squares. I don't know if he will. Like, you do have Gaius with the Sunflower Hammer. That is an option.
That's a lot of damage.
But he might hold Prio. That's a very CBD thing to do, is to hold Prio. So yeah. I'm not too sure. CBD already through first phase as Bushy is getting the heal out of Queeline. Looks like CBD's on track to get this in the next 2 minutes or so. So Bushy needs to respond to this once this gets marked. CBD getting a nice little jump attack in before second phase starts.
We're trying to get to that entrance as close as you can. That way you can go for this charge dart 2 here, potentially. Never mind, does not. Try to go for running R2, I believe, from the looks of it. Does get a little bit of headshot damage.
Yeah.
Not bad, though. Really not bad.
It's not bad damage at all. I just think that it's because it's so early in the game, right? It's like he's not as high Skidoo as he could be for this fight, so it does look like it's not performing as well as it should be. And Bushy gets Queeline. This is kind of interesting because if CBD dies on Skidoo Tree Avatar, there is a chance for Bushy to come back in this Remembrance progress. I don't know, not a bad pickup from Bushy. And CBD rolling the thorns, man. That is insane timing.
That was really close.
Here's Skidoo Tree stalling. I mean, I don't know. Like, is there a scenario where Bushy can maybe get to a Remembrance boss and kind of contest this massive
I don't think so.
Bunch of squares? Looks like Bushy's going for the money in for Reprimand right now. I don't see why else you'd be here. There's no Iris of Occultation. I think he just wants money. So CBD here in phase 3, doing the double jump strat to buffer a roll input. Very nicely done there. It looks like he should have this, barring any incidents. Don't want to caster curse him, but CBD having some very clean punishes, getting some good RNG there. Another good attack. Can get maybe 2 or 3 more attacks off here. Yep, there it is. Boom. Should be 1 or 2 more. Just hit the trunk, maybe. Nice, good roll. Hit the trunk. Nice. Very nicely done from CBD. He's going to get that Skidoo Tree Avatar, and that tells Bushy that there's a lot of squares that he's going to lose. He's going to lose Dupe, because CBD went to Church High Road. He's definitely going to lose Dupe. He might lose Remembrance Weapon to max, because I think CBD might just go for that Ghost Flame Dragon. So what do? Do you just give up all the Remembrance squares?
Well, oh,
I'm here.
you're back.
I'm alive.
He's back. He's back. I was just about to like take over just in case. I wasn't sure. Didn't want to interrupt. Didn't want to interrupt you there. We got dupe here though from CBD now, so that's gonna be 5-5. But CBD in a very, very strong position, and trying to see what is CBD thinking next. Back to Church District here, might be going for that access to Gaius. Going for the elevator here right next to Wego. Yeah, both kind of in the same location actually here. Elevator now for Bushy as well, recognizing that he has to have something remembrance-wise to go into this fight. Maybe getting Skidoo 10 would be a good idea to kind of like lean into that. But both players definitely making their way into the back section Shadowkeep here at this point. You back, Blanks? Everything good?
I am looking at 2 infinite loading bars. I'm trying to get the feeds back up, so I'll just listen to your commentary and I'll see if I can read the board and make some calls based off that. So you'll be my eyes. What are you seeing right now, Doma? What are you seeing? I'll commentate based on that.
I saw CBD screw up the altar jump onto the Skidoo tree fragment that's on the hand in the water section, and has to bring down the elevator so that he can go back up and do the jump again. Bushy here currently back section Grace did claim that going up the ladder now. Going to be grabbing the Loft Grace here in just a moment. So he does have a bit of a priority on Gaius here, getting to Gaius. Hand-to-hand, I'm not going to lie. Again, hand-to-hand Gaius is on the menu, and someone better buy, because otherwise it's going to go bad. And I could totally see that working out here. Go for Dane real quick. You have the gesture, get the hand-to-hand set up, and then after that, you have, Remembrance Weapon with Remembrance Boss, and also upgrade to max, as you mentioned, with the Pillar of Despair, or the Pillar of Solitude, or something. Smithing 25 stone. Yeah,
for sure. I think like once we see once Bushy saw that Scattered Tree square marked, I think like he just knows that these squares are off limits for Bushy to go for. So it'd be interesting to see like what exactly his play is next. But yeah, I mean, it looks like CBD is going to just be cleaning up a little bit. He's going to be evening up the score. There's not many lines left, to be honest. Like, the only lines left are going to get blocked out by CBD. There's that row 1. There's the column 5 that gets blocked out, both of which by Remembrance Weapon to max. And then the only one that's uncontested by both players is that column 1. So this could be a majority game if there's a block in row 4, row 1, column 5, etc. So.
And here we see it, though. CBD going for Dane. They're going to be grabbing that hand-to-hand here. Does have 416,000 runes, so looking to upgrade hand-to-hand. Maybe doing hand-to-hand Gaius could be a thing. Although I feel like going for Sunflower here, Sunflower Anvil Hammer. Not Sunflower Anvil. Sunflower Colossal Hammer into Gaius would be best bet, as Gaius is weak to holy damage and strike damage. That would be like a really, really good play for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And would you like to see the cold infusion on the hand-to-hand, or do you think holy is better? As the resident expert hand-to-hand Gaius player, what is your call?
It depends. It depends here. So if you have already, like, if you're this is like later game-ish, I would like to see holy hand-to-hand. If you can get the holy infusion and then go for a bunch of levels already, like in your stat line, and then go for the holy shroud cracked tier. Hand-to-hand holy is fantastic. However, if it's early game, guys, hand-to-hand cold is way, way better. I would recommend that over that for sure. But currently, Gaius here actually for Bushy on backhand blades. I think he's just really leaning into possibly getting that Remembrance Weapon to max to block out row 1 and column 5. Would not be a bad idea at all here for Bushy. Would be a really, really nice block. Not block. It would promote his row 1 and column 5 and would block the diagonal from CBD. So I got the colors mixed up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like we were saying, I think the smart blocks are what we needed to see this game from Bushy, and I'd love to see him reacting properly to what CBD's plays were this game, because like we mentioned before, he didn't decide to go for that bulldoze playstyle like we were talking about in the post game of the last match. He's instead like opting for smarter squares this game, which I do like seeing that a lot. He's sticking to his game plan. He's not deviating too far from it, and I just hope that we can get a game 3. I would love to see Bushy get a second chance at the 3rd place spot, for sure.
Yeah, it's looking very interesting, though, as currently we are tied on squares. Kind of both do have some pressure points. I would say that Bushy has more pressure points than CBD at this point in time. So I'm kind of expecting, even though that CBD has some priority on some squares, if, again, Bushy just pushes his lines, pushes his priorities, he could possibly run away with this match if he just, does not lean into holding priority or going for a bunch of combos. And again, just true, honest bingo gameplay instead of just being trying to like hold progression or holding things. I think that could really help him here.
Okay, we're back. We're so back. I tried a different browser and I can see the feeds again.
Welcome back.
We're back. Hell yes. Okay. So Bushy here going for that Gaius. I'm finally out of the dark. I can see now, which is wonderful because I can actually commentate on this game. Thank you for bearing with me, chat and Domo. CBD going for Solitary Jail Knight for that NPC square. As I said before, the only uncontested row/column is that column 1. So CBD getting on the board here is a really smart play. He's holding progress on those remembrance squares because he just wanted that dupe square, which makes a lot of sense because it puts himself on row 5. But if you're Bushy, like we've been mentioning before, if you punish CBD for holding progress, you can get Gaius' weapon. You can get level 10 Skidoo. You can get progress in level 85. You can mayhaps do a hand-to-hand boss. Oh! Bushy going down to Commander Gaius at literally 1 HP. I cannot believe it.
Yeah, and this is a really bad position because if you're looking at the diagonal here now for CBD, I think he's looking bottom left to top right, going for the Solitary Jail here as his 3rd NPC boss, and then going to have the Colossal Weapon already from Skidoo Travatar and could upgrade that to max. That diagonal starts to look really bad with Fleta and her companions being the last square on that diagonal.
Dude, he needed that Gaius kill for his just... Oh my god. He
Yeah.
needed that so bad.
He really needed that.
Because he could have contested that remembrance weapon to max if he had gotten Gaius.
He could
and now
still.
It looks like he could, but I think CBD might recognize that Bushy hasn't marked in a while, so he's gonna have to cash in on that priority in some way or another. Because I think he's gonna recognize that and go for maybe remembrance weapon to max now. But it looks like he's going for back section, maybe going up to Loft Grace for access to Finger Ruins for hand-to-hand base game boss, or maybe
hand-to-hand.
What is up there?
Gaius.
Any hand-to-hand Gaius enjoyers, dude? Yeah, I would say like a Tree Sentinel would be a better option because it gets you 2 squares. But it could be Gaius for 10 Skidoo as well, actually. That wouldn't be a bad play. Bushy getting hit here.
Now he's got me nervous.
He's got me really nervous. Whenever, like, people always mention it all the time, whenever you watch a player do a boss fight, it's always scary because they dodge stuff differently than you do. And you're like, ooh, that's weird. I don't like that. But you got phase 2 from Bushy.
Okay, I guess the stagger
Gets
here.
the stagger. I would have liked to see a blue dancer from Bushy, honestly. You kind of need that damage, and you've been losing, pretty much all game in the boss fights, like with that red bear snipe to CBD having the blue dancer charm damage over him. And that's one thing that I also was doing some testing on in that week of prep before CBD. He's the only runner that I see buy it every single game. And going into our match, I kind of knew that there was going to be some kind of deficit there in damage if I didn't learn how to use the blue dancer charm. Yeah. So I would have liked to see that from Bushy.
Roll too early.
He's got to lock in this Gaius, man. This is getting a little bit frightening. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, if he does not get this Gaius, he is looking really bad on this board because then CBD can just go ahead and really lock in that diagonal.
Yeah.
CBD not pushing, however, remembrance weapon to max. Going for Gaius first. Has the Sunflower. Is going for that center square first.
Stop fucking kicking me.
This is stressing me out.
Yeah. This could be something.
I think if you're CBD, I think you want center square plus 10 Skadu. That'd be a nice little double up there because you do kill Gaius. You get basically 6 fragments. Like the 5 from like the altar and the 1 from before the Oh Mother gesture. So that's like 3 levels of Skadu right there. That's 6 Skadu towards the 20 that you need to get to level 10. And most players can get 5 to 6 before Gaius. Looks like Bushy's gonna get Gaius here. He could maybe get the remembrance up into max.
There we go.
Maybe.
There we go.
But it's just gonna get blocked out. That red one's gonna get blocked out by the remembrance weapon square from CBD.
Nice little double
square.
up.
That's a double up. Yep. That puts CBD at 8 to 5.
But a column 5 could be a thing if he goes for Alana parries right afterwards. It's Ancient Dragon Cinesax and Consort Radon, the only 2 squares on column 5 left over if he gets that upgrade. And
that would be huge.
That could be really juicy.
Yeah. I think if you're Bushy, you have to waste CBD's time. Like, you need to find the right bingo threat, and we're probably going to make a prediction and say that it's column 5. You need to just make that threat apparent and just push it in CBD's face and make him go for it.
Here we see good old Sunflower for the first time this season. Sunflower being used on Commander
It's
Gaius.
so good.
It's so
I
good.
love this weapon. It's got that really fast charge R2, and it's like faster than like the Great Stars almost for that like charge R2 combo. You just kind of like bring it over your head slightly, and then you just come down with it. Jump R2 as well from CBD, very nice.
Really nice opening windows here. Yeah, this is gonna be Stagger City for sure with this Sunflower colossal weapon. Going to go into phase 2 already. Going to get a nice charged R2 yet again. Roll in here. Get another charged R2. Oh, he does miss it.
That's fine.
That's fine, though.
It's fine because look at least one from this phase transition attack right here. Boom. And then he might go for another. Nope.
No,
Not
doesn't
safe.
greet it.
Rolling R1.
Respectable.
And then he can maybe go for like one more R1 and then...
Oh, here we go.
Could be... There we go. There's Stagger. Yeah, I think the colossal weapon is like around 20 for like an R1 or something like that. Like 20 to 22, I think. A lot of poise damage for the R1s with this thing. This is what we use in the distortion speedrun bounty for the all remembrances. For we would set up our katana with flame spear, kill Scatter Tree, and then use the sunflower, which is absolutely what you love to see. CBD marking both squares, making himself honestly just running away with it. Like if we're being honest here, he's claimed almost all the remembrance related squares, and now he's going to go to 3-path cross to kill the Ghost Flame Dragon for the somber 10.
And Bushy here going for massive. Pillar of friggin' Solitude or something, or Pillar of Despair, Pillar of something, and getting that smithing 25. So this is a race of upgrade now.
I wonder if Bushy can win this, because it's a pretty long elevator. It's like 20 seconds of an elevator, but CBD already has it +9. So all he needs to do is kill the dragon and then wait for the stone. You can't warp right away. You have to wait for the stone to appear in your inventory, and then you can go ahead and you can warp away. But it looks like Bushy going for Ancient Dragon Man or the Forge. He's going for the Forge for the Ancient 25. Gotcha.
Okay, I mean that could work too. I don't know if you have enough time, but it could work. It's gonna cut it close.
This is gonna be really close. I mean, I think CBD is gonna just like destroy the dragon here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's gonna even be close.
Wake up damage. Wake up. Yeah, there's a ray of stagger. So there's that. Can't really get to the head in time. Okay, decent damage though. Really decent damage.
And gets the riposte. Wow.
Eesh.
Yeah. For some reason the riposte damage on dragons like doubled. I don't know exactly what causes that, but riposte damage is huge on dragons, and CBD throwing kookaries here to stall the poise, but they're actually missing even though he's locked onto the head. I'm not sure what the game thought he wanted to do. But Bushy here through the Forge. If this dragon stalls for If he stalls or if CBD goes down,
No, stagger.
never
It's
mind.
over.
It's actually just over. Okay, it's
Yeah.
not even close. Yeah.
There's
Bu-
a double
Bushy
charged
loses.
R2 headshot. It's
No, he falls in lava. It's a disaster. Oh. If CBD warps right away.
Boy.
Oh, he's waiting. He's waiting. Yep. He's waiting for the stone, and it looks like Bushy is gonna go down 5-9 to CBD. CBD needing 4 more squares to catch the W. I think if you're Bushy, I think what you target next is either 6 parries or base game hand to hand. Those are like your 2 options, I think. I
That
don't
is
know.
a rough position to be in right now.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, now it's just letting her companions for that diagonal. And I don't know what you do. CBD here, I think you just go for it. Just go for the diagonal. Just go for the bingo. You know that most likely Mesmer and Romina have not been killed by Bushy.
Yeah.
Just commit.
It looks like Bushy going for Loft Grace here. The only thing he possibly could be doing now is Mesmer because he already killed Gaius, so he has that Grace already. The only thing he could be doing now is Mesmer. And if you're CBD, you kind of know that. You kind of know that because you know that the remembrance square is so contested because it's such an important square to get. Like, you have to assume that was contested, and you have to. This is like one of those instances where like going for a bingo is actually like very, very like obvious to go for because Bushy's been playing catch up the entire game. Like, Bushy drained the water first, but CBD got like his rush squares, then he got the shadow keep after Bushy, but Bushy didn't favor the Sky Tree Avatar. He wanted to go for Queeline. I think that it was like getting sniped on Red Bear, and then getting Queeline over getting Sky Tree Avatar was just like the big turning point, I think, this game.
Yeah. And again, I hate to nitpick. Those 3 Bonneville skips really cost him a lot of time. And that could really like set the tone for the rest of the match too.
Yep. It looks like CPD is going for Mesmer, and there isn't really much on the board besides parries related to Mesmer, so I think he's going to go ahead and he's going to commit to this bingo. And you can't fault him for that because it's just the right play. I mean, like, Bushy, you have to assume that Bushy was contesting the remembrance squares. Like, even if you lose it, the worst case scenario is that you lose the Letta square, and Bushy also spend an equal amount of time going for Letta. So you're also still ahead, even if you lose the Letta square. So,
and I mean,
I think this is fine.
Level
CBD.
85 though too, from all the money.
Yep, that's fair. Level 85, I totally ignored that. That's fair.
Yeah.
CBD absolutely shredding Mesmer while Bushy just... Oh, CBD dies!
I thought I rolled.
Okay. Yeah, did not respect the phase 2 explosion. Bushy almost dead though himself. But
Potential?
what the hell happened there though? Like the first like swipe from that double swipe didn't even connect.
I don't even know at this point. I don't even know.
Bushy currently ahead now. Could get the lead here on Mesmer / Romina.
I do think if you're Bushy, the way back into the game is if CBD is still going to commit to the bingo, and then beat him on level 85, and then beat him on Letta, and then hand-to-hand a base game boss, you know, and then you can kind of compound that lead over and over again. And once you have that Letta square over CBD, you can hold Consort Radon. I think there's a very slim, but there is a possibility if Bushy starts sniping CBD that he could come back into this game. And if CBD has an incident again on Mesmer, I mean, that's more time for Bushy to catch up. Bushy here getting the phase explosion, although he's wearing armor, so it's not going to kill him. CBD just starting phase 2.
Yeah.
CBD getting the explosion again.
But
surviving.
Keep in mind, like look at the catch up from CBD, right? The damage difference is really. CBD dies again.
CBD dies again. Oh my god, we have a match on our hands.
No way. This is interesting. Okay, this is not what I expected. Explosion again.
Oh my god,
Dude,
this Mesmer is not happy today.
Yeah, he's a cranky boy.
Yeah, and it's worth noting neither players are really putting any emphasis on Bushy getting knocked up. No player is putting emphasis on summoning Hornsent for this fight. They don't really care about having him in the Letta fight. I do think this is correct if you're racing both level 85 and 10 Skadu and Letta and Consort Radon. Like, there's just too many squares to warrant the time sink of talking to Hornsent, because you have to warp to High Road Cross and you do have to warp back to Mesmer's Grace. Bushy getting the kill. Does he have a Horn Tender? He does have a Horn Tender, but CBD has the Gold Scarab. I think Bushy might as well, because actually he has 2 of those golden hands on his inventory, like under his health bar. Yep, 672.
Wow.
He has he got all those runes from
Very,
he also killed Gaius too.
Very juicy.
He also killed Gaius too.
75.
CBD opting for Shadow Tree Avatar, which is like, I think, similar amounts of runes for Shadow Tree and for Gaius. They're like about the same. So I think once CBD finishes this Mesmer kill, they're kind of tied for progress in level 85. CBD using his Horn Tender.
CBD should
He's
be
at
a
675
bit ahead,
as
though.
well. Because CBD got Red Bear. That's right. That's an extra 185 plus the NPC boss. He could actually have this square.
Yeah, we're gonna see here though. Bushy going straight towards Ancient Round now.
He has it. Look at that. Yep.
Yeah.
Level 90. Wow.
94.
Oh man, that's so rough, because like CBD died twice and you still couldn't really make up that much ground. It's just rough because of like the snipes, and now it looks like CBD going for level 10 Skadu next.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Like you know that if you showed level 85, that you're showing progression towards Letta and her companions, and that's just more reason not to do it.
I think Bushy here might be assuming that CBD has Romina dead as well. That's the most common route to level 85 is the Mesmer plus Romina. Although I will say with the ADM marked, the 3 NPC bosses marked, Strategy Avatar marked, I do think it's safe to assume that CBD doesn't have route progress just because of like the squares that he's marked in this amount of time. So if you're Bushy, do you keep going towards Letta, or like, what do you really do? Because I mean, CBD gets Skadu here, and then what? Like, you have to address column 1 if you're Bushy. You have to address column 4, which I guess is just Letta. There's still threats on CBD's side, and the last threat from Bushy with the column 1 is now just gone. So I don't really know what you're supposed to do if you're Bushy. Like, CBD could just do Skadu into hand-to-hand Tree Sentinel, and the game is over.
And I hate to harp on it, but again, as I said in the beginning of the match, if Bushy just pushed a line without having to like pivot around too much, like if he just went for that Red Bear just a little bit earlier, didn't go for all that Bonneville stuff, just like straight Great Katana, Queen, Red Bear, he could have been in such a really strong and commanding position to then have CBD kind of waste his time on other things while he could have prepped for remembrances, and instead kind of have it to where CBD actually took control of the match by, snagging that Red Bear away and getting rid of a lot of pressure.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think the turning point in this match was the Skadu Tree play, because like, I think Bushy was up 5-4 or 5-3 at that point in the match, and it's literally just snowballed to 10-5, like just like that. It almost feels like not much time has passed at all. Like,
yeah,
like we even said it in the pre-match. Like this is a board where you have to respect the remembrance play. Like there's some boards where it's not super prevalent to go Mesmer, to go Gaius, to go Romina, but on this board, like, you can't let that go. Colossal weapon, Skadu Tree Avatar. Level 85, like, dupe remembrance boss, the remembrance weapon. Like, there is just way too much to favor squares like Queen and Loger, and like, I think his first squares are fine. I think the Teolia's Concoction, Great Katana,
that was fine.
Those are fine, but I think if he had made pressure elsewhere earlier, like maybe if his play was to push column 2, he could have probably done Katana, Concoction, Queen, Red Bear, and that would have been like a massive pressure point for him. I understand being scared of the Remembrance play still, which is why I personally probably would have favored Church District on this board. It's just really hard when like you're kind of half committing on 2 different squares. Like, it's hard to like manage all that progress, because he kind of just like let Shadowkeep go after draining the water. He kind of like didn't really do a whole lot in Shadowkeep once he got that water drained. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think bulldozing was definitely a potential viable option for this board for sure.
Bushy here taking an interesting route to Romina, taking the elevator here instead of going around for the Skidoo fragment with the altar.
This way leads to sort of light and darkness, so it's kind of like a decent route. I think he knows the skip here.
Okay,
There's like a little skip on a tree up here to the sword.
Yeah, I guess he is going for that. Oh.
Yeah, you jump up these rocks right here, and there's like a little bit of like a tree jump to get you on these invisible bridge right here. It's kind of cool. Do a little neutral jump. Yep, perfect. That was a really well suited skip. That skip is harder than it looks. But yeah, pushing the sword there. Sadly, I think it's a little bit too late. I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to be like the bearer of bad news, but I think that this might be a bit too late to be going for synergy plays like this. I think Letta is definitely the call. It's hard to make that call though because CBD could just as easily do Skadu into hand-to-hand Tree Sentinel or whatever, and like everything is blocked, so CBD can go ahead and go for majority. It's just a really tough spot for Bushy, man. It's a really tough spot.
I don't understand the sort of light and darkness here. I guess because he doesn't want the diagonal and the column 1 build up just in case. But again, trying to like call a bluff, I guess, from CBD, being like, hey, you're probably not doing your bingo line, you're probably doing something else, and I'm going to call that it's going to be sort of light and darkness because it is a pretty quick and easy pickup. But not thinking that it's Skidoo 10 is kind of weird to me. Like, out of anything, because both of you probably killed Commander Gaius, I feel like out of anything, I would have made that as my first pick. If I wasn't going to commit to blocking a line, I would pick that first.
I would have liked to see Bushy going for Gaius while CBD goes for Scouted Tree Avatar. I think that would have been a really good counterplay because you could, like we were talking about, you could potentially race the Ancient 25 versus the Ghost Flame Dragon. It would have been a much more even footing race if Bushy didn't go down to Gaius that one time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's easy to say in hindsight for sure. Although I will say I do think that Sword of Light and Darkness is a bit too defensive from Bushy. Because I think this is the most non-progressive square on the board. The only thing that it progresses is a little bit of Ancient Rao, because he even left after getting Devonia's Grace, which is like not even that much Ancient Rao. Like you have to make that run up to Romina. What I would have liked is the sword. So the sword is fine. Grab the sword and Ancient Rao.
And then grab
the
synergy
Grace. Play. And then grab Romina's Grace and either go down for this sword or kill Romina and then cash in on sword after that. But it looks like CBD here is always gonna pivot. CBD is pivoting. Actually, he sees the sword and now he's not gonna pivot. That's what I was talking about. It's too defensive because now CBD can go ahead and just go for that bingo now because he knows that if Bushy is in Rao now, if his second sword was the one in Rao, he's behind on Romina, and if it's the one in Watering Hole, then he's really behind on Romina. So yeah, I don't know. I think CBD going for the bingo is the correct call here for sure.
Like I think Bushy's hoping actually that he's ahead with sort of Light and Darkness and showcasing like, hey, I've got access to Ancient Rao. If you don't have it, I'm ahead, and you're going to back off of Letta.
Sure.
And so now he's going for a base game boss in the DLC instead. And it's kind of like
that's fair.
Bluffing a lead that he thinks he has when he doesn't.
That is fair for sure. What I would have liked to see from CBD, I know we haven't really seen it at all in the season, but honestly, hand-to-hand Romina, because you infused that with fire. You had that for Skidoo Tree Avatar. You infused that with fire. And no matter what, even if Bushy beats you on Letta and Companions, there's no way Bushy is doing hand-to-hand on Romina. So you get at least one square out of it. You make it 11 to 6, potentially 11 to 7 if Bushy does go for that Letta and Companion square. And then you can then clean up other squares around the board, like 10 Skadu. Bottles would be a really good one because there's like no synergy down there. Maybe Senesax, but Bottles would be a good play for CBD, hand-to-hand. And there's Bushy with the base game boss in DLC. And honestly, if anything, that should tell CBD that Bushy has no interest in that hand-to-hand square, because I think Hand-to-Hand Tree Sentinel is like kind of meta. It's one of those squares that they go together really well because it's like strike damage.
Yeah.
It's you most likely have like frost or bleed. It's really not a bad idea to go for. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate this call from CBD either. I think going for Romina is perfectly fine. Bushy here going from Devonia's Grace, which is really far away. He's so behind right now in Romina.
Very, very far behind. And yeah, this is like, there's no reason for CBD to pivot at all. He knows that, like, hey, I have Romina dead. I've got access to Burning Ceiling Tree. You might have Mesmer dead, but you don't have Romina. You've got Sword of Light. You've got base game, boss, and DLC. I'm definitely currently just in front of you, and there's no reason for me to pivot off this. And this is going to be a possible GG's in the next 3 minutes.
Yeah. I think we're seeing a lot more of that that CB that we saw in the regular season here for sure. Just taking control of the match over smart decision making and just making good calls, not having any incidents on squares. Love to see that CBD was able to rebound after he lost in the semifinals. It would really suck for him to go out as the third seed or as the fourth seed after having such a strong main season performance. Love to see CBD performing here on the third place match. Bushy as well honestly brought his A game today. I think that the one thing that mattered the most, I would say, would be that Bonnie skip. That it did cost him a lot of time in both matches, and I think that it kind of unfairly skews the score in a way that makes it look like Bushy didn't perform as well as he could have.
Right.
But I think that for both players, it's a performance that you might look back on and say I could have done better, but at least you showed up and you did what you could. You didn't give up. And yeah, I mean, I enjoyed these two games from both these players. We expect a GG from CBD pretty soon here, but yeah, I mean, it's been a fantastic season for both these players, honestly.
Yeah, lots of cool plays, lots of cool, I would say spontaneous decisions that we haven't seen before, like in practice matches, and being like, oh, okay, this is like something that you could possibly pull off in official matches. And I think seeing the development of these two players, including everyone, just is always really, really cool to see. And seeing their their different play styles and what they prefer, the whole thing with the Great Katana with Bushy being like, oh my god, he actually sold it, was something that you didn't expect. Those are the moments that I personally really enjoy, is like someone stepping out of their comfort and also just being like, hey, I'm here to try out some new things. I'm here to win, and really switching up their own play style.
Yeah, I am very happy with how CBD has grown as a player this season for sure. There's been a lot of moments where I've been playing CBD and he goes down 3 or 4 squares, and then he kind of calls for a reset, and I'm like, yeah, man, no worries, keep your head up, you've been playing a fantastic season so far. And I feel like he can be sometimes hard on himself, and
yeah,
I don't know. I think a lot of players that are really, really good have that mentality where if they don't have a perfect game, it's not good enough for them. Think of people like Tom, people like CBD, people like Bushy, people like Chris. This is the highest level, one of the highest levels of Elden Ring that you'll see on Twitch. And when you see someone like Bushy going down a couple of squares in a match like this, you can't even put it against them, because he's against one of the best Elden Ring players in the world. So it's not even he's losing to some random Twitch chatter or whatever. Bushy is against the toughest opponent the entire season. Nobody has beat CBD besides myself in the semifinals. I even lost him in the main season. So I don't think any players this season will have any kind of regrets participating. Bingo Brawlers is a fantastic event that I've been really, really loving to be a part of. It's just a fantastic experience for everyone involved. Just love being part of that, practice matches late at night.
yeah, it's definitely
very, very fun
crazy
stuff.
Oh, we're going for parries here, by the way, Romina. Yeah, no, I agree, and I definitely appreciate the kind words too. Yeah, I think it's a cool thing of seeing people really upping their game and seeing oh, I could actually learn something. This isn't just a game where you play it for could be the story or just for the combat, just to enjoy it, but it's a thing of oh, this could be something that I could study, and just genuinely learn. Which I feel some games you can't really do it to that degree. And so I think having that option is really cool to see, and so many people being enthusiastic of wanting to learn too, and be like, this looks really fun. Let me get in on this bingo action. I think is just awesome.
Yeah, I for one have made some of my best memories with Elden Ring, like through bingo, because I've been doing competitive Elden Ring for like a while now with like speedrun competitions and whatnot, and just all the support the players have given, like, you know, in particular like Tom and Swed and CBD, just like always being there for practice and always having encouraging words after the match, and like the willingness. I mentioned this to CBD after we played our series, because we kind of had like a back and forth after, and I mentioned this to CBD. I'm like thank you for not withholding information and, like, you know, talking after matches and like discussing each other's thought process and strategy, because you could just as easily justify somebody holding info and, like, you know, wanting the advantage on match day and whatever. But I think it's a much more healthy environment competitively if the competitors are actively discussing strategy, and that way coming up with new plays to you know, innovate on, like, you know, just bingo in general. And I think it's been really inspiring and motivating to learn and try harder to get better. So I think you got a really good thing going on here with Bingo Brawlers, and I think chat loves it too.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really, really cool to see, especially like that's like one thing I kind of like mentioned before, like with bingo, the same thing with like speedrun bounties, right? Where everyone just kind of comes together to solve this like big puzzle of all these different things that you can do in the game. And it excites me whenever, like, I do write a new format and a new list, and then people sitting down and being like, okay, well, like, how do we solve this? Like, what's the best thing that we can do here? And then seeing it in action it's like it's really, really sick to see, for sure. And then new metas arising in the middle of it as well, and be like, oh my god, like, no one's thought of this so far. There's just a lot that goes with it, and it's just awesome. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, we got CBD here coming into the Letta fight. Unfortunately, this is spelling the end of the series. I really wanted to see a game 3 between these two players. I think, like, the two playstyles collided the way that we were talking about earlier, and I think CBD had a slightly better read on what Bushy likes to do. Bushy playing that mind game, Bushy going for that, you know, that sort of light and darkness that neither of us saw coming. I think doing stuff like that is perfectly acceptable, and it's a viable way to play. I just think it didn't really play into CBD's game plan, because CBD just wanted that juicy remembrance square combo right into the like diagonal bingo threat. I think CBD played a fantastic series, and there is Bushy marking the remembrance square for Romina. Potentially, if CBD dies 15 times, there's a potential that he gets sniped on this Letta square.
I'd be very surprised. Very surprised.
I do not think that CBD will. Yeah, he's already got Jane dead. Yeah, I mean, it looks like CBD is ending as the third seed in season 4.
Yeah, third place
it's
going
close.
to CBD here. There it is.
Boom! The thunderous bingo sound.
And there we go. GG's to CBD, third place for season 4, fourth place here for Bushy, burning that beautiful ceiling tree. Wow, yeah, that was I was really hoping. I've been hoping for game 3 for 3 days now. I mean, I've been on this roller coaster before of like, yo, can I get a game 3? Can I get a game 3? No. Okay, next day, can I get a game 3? Can I get a game 3? No. All right, how about this time? No. So I really hope for finals. Obviously, for the hype, I would love a game 3. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But it would be really, really cool to see, obviously. But both, fantastic plays from both players. CBD is having a bit stronger plays and really locking in these two matches. I think definitely just mattered a lot. Like a lot of those choices that he made were just really strong progression choices. And I feel like the thing that I was hoping from Bushy was actually a bit more from CBD in this case, where he actually pushed out lines that he really just liked, and waited to see like what Bushy would do afterwards. So I don't know. It was very, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this back and forth. I was even talking about this yesterday. I was talking about how this this match was gonna go. It's just gonna be like the battle of the two mega brains, the two big brained bingo brawlers. And yeah, I mean, we got our times worth for sure. We got our times worth of matches.
Yeah.
CBD taking the series 2-0, and yeah,
Kinda
overall just
crazy.
a great set of matches.
Moving into finals, which is going to be next week. That's going to be crazy too. But post game here right now, CBD taking a 2-0 victory. Going to move over to that screen. We'll bring in CBD to talk about some of the matches. Hold on just a second. Welcome on in, CBD. GG's, good sir, GG's. Come on in,
Hello,
CBD.
thank you.
GG's, good sir, GG's. So a lot happening in these two matches here. Very interesting center squares, I believe, as well. How are you feeling overall, though, ending on third place? How are you feeling overall, though, ending on third place?
I feel great having the best win-loss record in the league.
I feel great
Yeah.
having the best win-loss record in the league.
That's my consolation prize for not getting first.
That's my consolation.
It's still pretty. It's still pretty huge.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to change Blanks' name here. Hold on, you're not Gino. I'm sorry.
No,
Wait.
no double audio this time, right?
Well, it's still Gino. Wait, they're double Gino. Oh, never mind. Okay, Blanks or Gino for today. I'm sorry. Just adopt that name.
That's okay.
My apologies. But yeah, so CBD here. So first match we had a bit of a, I would say, volatile start between you and Bushy, going for that really early balls the same way you did this match. Is that just because it was an early corner square? Because personally, I kind of talked to Blanks about this a little bit, where I don't like an early balls like that because it indicates that you haven't been to Fort Reprimand, you haven't been to Skidoo Altus at all, you haven't like had any map progression. It is a corner square, so I could see that value, but like what exactly made you want to go for that first over rushing like Drain the Water?
Well, I mean, killing balls is no different than getting the larval tiers, in my opinion. Just like larval tiers, like lets the other person know that you haven't advanced that far either. So I just look at it as another corner square or diagonal square, or whatever, early game square, right? So, I didn't go for Drain the Water right away. I don't know. I mean, I was getting over there, but if you bum rush like a mid game square too early, then you can lose out on a lot of like board presence as opposed to map presence, and that's really important to remember.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Like you and Bushy, I was like trying to kind of predict when you would drain the water or Bushy would drain the water, how that would kind of hide the other's progression towards Church District, and we were kind of like we were waiting to see who was going to cash in on Skidoo Tree Avatar.
Yeah.
I think you overall got the better end of the deal there because you were able to hide that progress to Church District and also just cash in on square after square after square in that that succession.
Yeah, no, 100%. Let me bring in Bushy here as well. We'll talk a little bit more about game one since we have two games here. Welcome in, Bushy. GG's.
GG's.
GG's Bushy.
So yeah, a lot happening in these two matches here. I think the game plan on match one was interesting from both of you guys. I know match one was a while ago, but if you do remember a little bit about the game plan one being a lot of South Coast, Demi-Human Mariga, Swordsman. There was also, Lamenter with Transformation as a combo play. And you guys both kind of rushing Ancient Dragon Man really early on to get that South access. What was the overall thought process, however, going into this best of threes for both of you guys?
Give me a second to pull up the board from game one. I'm just gonna do that so that I remember.
Yeah. No worries.
And making a little bit better.
Well, I remember there being, I think it was 10 squares behind Ancient Dragon Man, so that kind of showed way more priority, I think, than going to Skidoo Altus right away.
Yeah.
For sure. And Bushy did the same thing where he hit his progress towards ADM early because you got the backhand square, but he also killed ADM. So you didn't really know that he was there. So I think it was a good play for you to cash in like those Dragon Hearts and build up those bingos around there before progressing any further.
Yeah, and so there was a line that was pretty powerful. It was actually the whole synergies of like dragon bosses, and then dragon hearts, Sandsax, and Egon's Furled Finger. That was actually something that was, I would say, I guess, priority held on by Bushy, and then CBD went for it. Am I crazy? No, Bushy went for the Egon's Furled Finger, and called the bluff. Yeah, I think Bushy did. Why? I guess the question here for me was in game one for that Egon's Furled Finger. Why was that held on for so long when it had a pretty strong synergy with dragon bosses and dragon hearts on top of that.
There was other stuff. That's about it. I didn't know where Bushy was.
Yeah.
So it was ultimately like I could give it up in exchange for like getting progress on other squares. So I wasn't too worried about it, because that's the thing when it comes to bingo. It's like you have to know what squares you can give up if you can get progress on other things, right? So even if like I went towards Semi-Human Mariga and then he didn't, I had the Grace right before the Dueling Drakes. So I kind of covered, and I went back there anyways to kill the Drakes for the Dragonheart bosses. So it's a give or take kind of game throughout the entire match, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I got you.
Can I just ask Bushy a question about game 1 real quick?
Mm-hmm.
So there was a point in the match. It was 6-7, and CVD had the lead. He was also threatening column 4, row 2, and column 1 at the same time. What was your thought process behind how you were going to tackle that situation? Because the pivotal square that we were both talking about was heal the wounded Kindred Rod, because that would have blocked out the two, like the row 2 and the column 4. You instead opted for a Revered Ash, which was fine because you also got Dancing Lion. You got progress on like a Remembrance boss, and Dragon bosses were still on the board. So we were thinking, oh, is there some kind of like bail play developing here? So just give us a little bit of insight on what your strategy was at that point in time when there were those bingo threats.
Column 4, I think I accurately rated that as not much of a problem. Like at least at the time. Because like even as the game developed, like getting a bingo on column 4, just for reference, because I know chat can't see it. It was boss with backhand blades that CBD got early on, 2 dragon hearts which CBD got early on, the heal the wounded Kindred of Rot, which you guys are talking about, and then the other 2 squares are acquire Velvet St Trina sword and Ancient Dragon Senesax, both of which are very long and kind of in different directions. So I was more or less thinking like, okay, I wasn't really thinking about column 4, because if it's getting to the point where those squares are getting claimed, it's probably just going to be a majority win anyway. So column 1 was much more threatening.
Yep.
Because there was only the Remembrance boss square left on it.
Yeah.
Or at the time, I was only able to like really contest the Remembrance boss square, if I remember correctly. Like I think Gaius's pants were still open, but like I was way behind on Gaius's pants. So I go for Revered Ash with the idea of progressing Remembrance bosses while also getting another square. And yeah, Baal was crossing my mind as soon as CBD marked dragon bosses. Baal was less of an idea.
Yep. We were talking about how you could double up with Baal and Senesax maybe to come back in the game.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was just really tricky.
Yeah. So off the begin, something that is definitely a bit of a failure on my part is I didn't have enough time during like this later half of the season to really get a whole bunch of practice in. So I was not very good at backhand blades. And so in the first game, I opted out of backhand blades despite them being the obvious best choice. And in the second game, I chose to go for backhand blades, and I don't have a whole lot of practice with them, so I wasn't as good as I could have been. And I knew that like the whole way through. I just hadn't mentioned it up until now because that's like obviously disadvantageous if everyone knows that. But I knew that about me, so I was hoping to see some boards that would not be discouraging Great Katana. But yeah, in the early game, I knew I was giving up the boss with backhand blades only square. And I don't know how you think about this, CBD, but in the early game, I find it really, really, really difficult to actually properly account for like how the early game squares are going to distribute themselves and what the bingo threats that are going to arise out of those are. Like, because there's like millions of permutations of how like 5 different squares can change, and then which bingo threats come from them.
Yeah,
but anyway,
more or less.
Yeah, like I pretty much don't think about bingo threats off of the beginning of the board and let the early game develop and then examine the bingo threats. And in the case with this game, he got backhand blades and bowls early. In retrospect, I should have targeted bowls more aggressively, because that immediately forced me into an early golden hippo, which was not desirable. I would have much rather have gone to the south and claimed some of that like dragon synergy, which CBD took the time and claimed the dragon hearts. And while I was doing that, which of course he does, that's the better idea on the board. Yeah, and then from there on out, like my play ended up being pretty forced because the column 1 threat, I don't remember if I was forced on the row 2 threat, but that was definitely a thing. I think column 2 also might have been a threat at some point, but anyway, the point is I wasn't able to spend a majority of my time pursuing the strongest synergistic plays on the board because my square position, like the bingo threats that I needed to block and the bingo threats that I was able to develop just weren't there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like the squares left over afterwards just weren't desirable, was those like the big issue, because CBD ended up claiming, I think it was like Mesmer. He claimed, I don't remember if he did, I think you did parries. But like the squares that were left over were just not desirable for you, which puts you in a really tough spot.
Yeah, it was all split. It was like 2 squares down in Abyssal Woods, 1 square down by PK, Senesax, and like remember like that when you're behind on majority and all the squares have no synergy and there's no like map progression lead, it's so hard.
Yeah, and for that match 1, by the way, I did point out that row 5 to be honestly like a really strong row that either of you could have pushed. Was that ever a consideration from either of you guys, seeing as like if you get Commander Gaius' pants and the sorceries as a combo piece, and then everything else was like dragons, including if you get the painting for Rockheart, that could have been just like I guess a really nice like line. But also, I guess for both you guys going Ancient Dragon Man, you could have easily have the other player kind of block that out. But I don't know, with decent planning, I feel like that row 5 could have been a little devastating. Was there any other lines that maybe you guys liked on the first board?
I'll start, and I'll say, like, philosophically with bingo, I think the only I haven't mentioned this again during the whole season because of competitive advantage, right? But I think the only lines that it makes sense to plan on going for, like early on, are diagonal lines, because if you go for a vertical or a horizontal, your opponent can also go for a vertical or a horizontal and race you to a bingo, which is problematic. If you go for a diagonal, you naturally end up cutting off all the bingos on the board. So like philosophically, I don't eye columns or rows off of the beginning, but I do look at both diagonals to see if there's like good synergy there. So no, I personally wasn't really looking at row 5.
Gotcha. What about you, CBD? Anything that was kind of catching your eye at all?
I mean, like, I wasn't really going for anything. Just I was worried about the column 3 threat, just because Bushy already had Shadowkeep access, which meant that he was closer to the giant finger, and I didn't know if he went back section or not, so I didn't know if he was ahead on sorceries. But I mean, I didn't really have anything that I was looking at. Maybe like the top left diagonal, but that's about it.
Gotcha. Okay. And I like the same, I guess, for like board 2. Here there were some interesting lines, especially with the new.
Can I say one more thing on board 1?
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
There was a decision like right in the mid game where I chose to go for Demi-Human Swordsman and Rolling Giant Lightning Ram.
Yeah.
And CBD went for Lamenter and Transformation. I chose to go for those squares because he had already shown Demi-Human Queen, which means he's obviously close to both of those squares, and I was seeing an opportunity to take them from him. I saw that Transformation was really strong because it was that column 2 threat that I was making. But it slipped my mind that CBD could go for Lamenter, or I think I was overestimating how much time it would take to go for Lamenter. I was assuming that he would push backside after going DLC sorceries to get the painting to go for the Dragon Rockheart painting up by Senesax.
Right.
Which was what I was going for immediately afterwards.
Yep.
And so yeah, I misevaluated the Lamenter and transformation synergy there. I think if I had noticed that, I would get Rolling Giant Lightning Ram and then go for the transformation instead of going for the Demi-Human Swordsman first. But I don't know if that was a point of contention for commentary at some point there, but just in case, I'll give my rationale.
Yeah, that was definitely
we
a
were
question
talking about
came
that
up.
too.
Yeah, where it was like the Demi-Human Swordsman square pickup seems like a dead square anyways, so kind of I understand trying to like claim on the bluff of holding that priority, but also like at that time I don't think there was having the luxury of really committing to that when you had other lines kind of like, or other combinations of squares being a bit more powerful on the board. There was one more thing too, which was actually the Egon's Furled Finger. When you did pick that up, Bushy, because you were thinking of transformations, didn't go all the way up past Senesax for the Grace closer to the painting reward. I know it would be a bit of a time sink, I guess, going there, but you would have to do that anyways. Was wondering why you just decided to opt out of and porting away instead of going for that Grace closer to the painting then.
I'm looking back at the log and trying to remember my exact rationale. I was rushing something. I felt I needed to rush something. I don't remember what I went to go rush though.
I got you.
Yeah, I can't remember. The log isn't reminding me. But I felt like something was really important that I needed to go do right at that moment. So I said, that the Grace that I have is good enough.
Yeah, I got you.
That's fair.
CBD, for you, after winning the first match, was there any type of shift of play style at all that you wanted to do, like after being done with match one, be like, okay, maybe I'll focus more next match on synergies, or really focusing more on lines just to create more pressures? Was there any change at all in your play style, or was it kind of like, hey, it worked for match one, I'll do it again in match two?
I don't know if I really have too much of a play style. I feel like Bingo is a game of logic, not necessarily a game of like preparation with a plan. You have to be very adaptable. So I mean, I wouldn't say my plan changed at all. So,
Okay.
Yeah, just keep on doing the same thing.
Gotcha. It did get the center square here in the second match. How'd you feel about that? This board definitely kind of gave a really strong reason to go for Skadootree and really using that sunflower
board.
But yeah, for the approach of seeing it without any claims yet on any squares, like how did you feel about looking at this?
Well, I mean, I saw Colossal, I saw Remembrance, I saw Remembrance level to max, and I saw Skadootree Avatar, and there's 10 Skadu, there's level 85, there's so much, like, the dupe of Remembrance, there's so much, like, reason to go to Skadu Avatar, because you'd effectively get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares out of it. So
we were talking about a potential play for Bushy to, instead of going for Skadootree Avatar, going for Gaius and trying to cut you off on Remembrance Weapon to max and Remembrance like kill with a Remembrance Weapon. Like, we were expecting that row 1 to get threatened. I do think the pivotal moment in this match, though, was the Red Bear snipe, because that not only shut down the column 2, but it also shut down the column 3, or the row 3. And then from that point, you just got Skadu Avatar and just cashed in that for like square after square. That really changed the game like a whole lot. I think the Red Bear like snipe was a lot bigger than it seemed at first.
Yeah,
well, I'll just say from my perspective, because I feel like this might be some pretty necessary context for the rest of this conversation. It slipped my mind that the sunflower weapon was a colossal weapon, so I didn't see that synergy. I was thinking Bloodfiend's arm the whole time for that square, but as soon as you marked Skadootree Avatar, I was like, oh shit, I'm losing all these squares. So as I was progressing towards Gaius, I was doing my best to come up with some sort of counterplay plan. And it didn't actually involve doing Remembrance Boss with a Remembrance Weapon, but it did involve getting the upgraded Remembrance Weapon to max, which was like probably a 10-second snipe. And with that, I was gonna try to push column 5. I was maybe just gonna let it sit at Ancient Dragon Senesax and Consort Radon and make you do one of them, while collecting the other earlier game squares and use that counterplay to try to buy my way back into this game. But as soon as you showed Scouter Tree, I knew I was fucked on Colossal Weapon only and Remembrance Boss with Remembrance Weapon. I expected you to push Gaius with it like immediately, but you didn't actually do it immediately, which did kind of surprise me. But I also died on actual 1 HP to a charge attack at point blank that I don't think should have hit me, but it did hit me. So I wasted like 5 minutes.
You also would have gotten the top right diagonal square, activating the column 5,
exactly.
also blocking the diagonal. Like, it would have been a way different game if you had gotten that square.
Yeah.
That was the other part of the rationale. The Remembrance Weapon to max was the bingo block and my own bingo push. That was the exact rationale. So even though I was in that exchange, I was losing 4 squares to 1 if it ended up going the way that I wanted it to. I felt like I still had enough there to have a chance at winning, because I think it would have been an obvious parries race after that, and then make CBD do something slow and maybe buy my way back into majority.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I mean, GG's to both you guys, man. It was a very strong performance from both of you. CBD making some really, really strong and great calls, and the high risk, high reward of Blue Dancer, no armor, definitely showed its colors here today, I think, as well, because like there were definitely some fights where we just saw the huge DPS difference between the both of you. You know, with just having an extra prep and just really risking the high DPS backhand blades for some of those fights, because even on the Mesmer fight, CBD died twice and still almost caught up to a one attempt on Bushy. So like the damage difference was definitely like just huge in that regard.
And like I said, I didn't have practice with backhand blades. I'm sure I upgraded very incorrectly.
Yeah, it's tricky, but having the weapon versatility would have definitely been huge for these 2 matches. Which is tough, but it just happens. That's why I threw in also the Colossal Weapon, because no one really practiced at all with Colossal, and just seeing like, hey, see what happens, like who's gonna do it and how are we gonna do it. I think was really cool. But yeah, GG's to both you guys, man. Thanks so much for playing. This is your final match for both you guys. CBD 3rd place, Bushy 4th place here, closing on out. And if you guys want to go ahead and shout yourselves out, CBD, you can go first here. Like, what are you working on? You know, your experience with bingo and everything, and just like
Bushy can go first.
Oh, Bushy. Okay, go ahead. Sure, whichever.
Okay. Well, I just want to take my time to say thank you to Bree. The only reason that I was able to play in this season was because Bree had something a little bit more important going on. She's pregnant. So
Pregante.
Big congratulations to
individual. Crazy.
I'm happy to have filled in. I had a whole lot of fun playing this season. Grateful that I got to benefit from it, and obviously happy that she's gonna have a kid. So big congratulations to Bree. Thank you. We all love Bree here. Like, she's obviously been a big part of bingo. So yeah, thank you for having me, Domo. I had fun. I do challenge runs. I'll keep doing challenge runs. Feel free to follow me if you want. That's all I got.
Yeah, Twitch and YouTube, Bushy guys, chat, and if you're on YouTube, you can just go ahead and check out that in the search bar as well. Lots of videos, lots of content, so please go ahead and check out Bushy. Thanks so much for playing. I do appreciate that, Bushy. Thank you. Yeah. CBD, go ahead.
I also do challenge runs, so follow me. Eventually I'll get off my ass and do more YouTube, so subscribe to the YouTube. Also, I guess with this season, it was really nice to perform well, and it's nice to not be in the same position that I was in season 2, where I don't know. everyone thought I was terrible. So, fuck you, mean shatters. But I think I think it was really nice to have the best win-loss of the season and be the only person to win all of their pre-playoff games in a season. Well, I guess in a solo season. So that was really nice. But and I'd like to thank Blanks, Tom, and Swed for always being available for practice matches. I don't think any of us would have gotten as good as we got if it weren't for each other.
Yeah.
And thank you, Domo, for putting this on as always. I feel like sometimes it's a thankless job from chat. They complain, they bitch and moan, but the fact that there has been almost no hiccups this entire season is such a testament to Domo chat. You guys have no idea, right, how difficult and how stressful it is to put this on. So thank you again, Domo. Thanks for inviting me again for this season.
Yeah, appreciate it. And thanks for both of you guys joining in, and thanks for Bushy for taking Bree's spot. That definitely was scrambling a little bit with trying to get the player list going and like juggling everyone's schedules. That was definitely a tough spot to be in sometimes. But thankfully for both you guys for playing and really showcasing your skill and showing what you're good at, which I think is awesome. And being part of the community and being part of Bingo, I think is just awesome. So. Thank you, for taking the time and practicing and all that stuff. Because, I think a lot of people don't realize how much time it actually takes to practice and how much time it takes to understand Bingo. Because a lot of people, like, same with sports, right? Like, they'll watch like soccer and complain and be like, oh, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? It's like, how about you run and play soccer for like 90 minutes straight and like huff and puff and try to make these like goals and passes correctly? Like, you don't even do that, so really putting in that time to really understand and really showcasing like really cool strats and skills, I think is awesome. So I really do appreciate that a lot. It's I think very underappreciated as well as like how much time you guys put into learning Bingo. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us all, Domo. It's honestly been like I keep saying, this is like one of the best competitive Elden Ring events that like has been around in a long time, like for me at least, because I do like speedruns and stuff like that. So Bingo is a totally different thing. It's more esports oriented. It's organized, matches every week. It's like a formatted league to where like, you have a record and you have like matches every week. And I think that you're breathing life into Elden Ring, which is a very good thing because Elden Ring as a whole is not as massive as it was like a long time ago back when it first came out. So I think that events like this are very, very good for the competitiveness of Elden Ring to like live on. So yeah. Thank you, Domo, for putting this all together.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, man. Appreciate the kind words, guys. With that though, we're gonna have to go and close out the third place match day. So thank you very much for being here, Bushy and CBD, for playing. Really do appreciate that. GG's again to both you guys, and thanks Blanks for giving me your time to commentate third place matches with me. That was always awesome to commentate. Next week is going to be our final day, which is finals. It's going to be Starro Chris versus Blanks for our final matchup of Season 4. And, with that, Bushy and CBD, I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Thanks so much again for being here. I do appreciate it. And hopefully see you guys possibly Season 5.
See some new faces potentially.
There's a little bit of a plan that I have where there might be a lot of people, so we'll see. So we'll see though. We'll see. But with that, have a great rest of your Sunday, guys. Thanks again for playing. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you guys take care. And again, chat, please go ahead and check out both CBD and Bushy on Twitch. Go ahead and go on the website bingobrawlers.com. You can click on everyone's pictures. That takes you to their Twitch channels. Go ahead and give them a follow. They all work really hard on their content. Have a great rest of your day, guys.
Great matches, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Remember the Redon cheese. Bye.
Bye-bye.